And now I'd like to call to order the December 18th, 2019 formal City Council meeting. Will the City Clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Guardado. Mayor Gallego.
Here. Thank you. We have an interpreter here with us today. Mario, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My name is Mario Barajas. I'm going to be making a brief announcement in Spanish for Spanish speakers. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Mario Barajas. Voy a estar sirviendo como su intérprete de esta tarde. Si acaso necesitaran el servicio de un intérprete, pueden acudir hacia cualquier miembro del personal de la ciudad en la parte de atrás para adquirir los instrumentos para la interpretación. Gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Will the City Clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G 6617, 6650 through 6652, S 46228 through 46262, and Resolution 21800.
Thank you. Councilman Nowakowski, have you had a chance to review the meeting minutes of April 17th, 2019?
I sure have, and I approve them. A motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Today's an exciting day for us in the city of Phoenix. We just opened we dedicated the largest freeway project in Arizona history, the South Mountain 202 Ed Pastor Freeway. So congratulations to the Pastor family. Today is Ed and Verma's anniversary, so Verma has set the top bar ever for anniversary recognition. None of us will try to compete. I was also able to have a great conversation with the Arizona Department of Transportation director about a pipeline we are building in the city of Phoenix, and he said some very positive things about moving it into freeway right-of-way. So I think very potential good news in that area. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion to approve City Council and mayoral board and commission nominations as revised?
Yes, we have a motion to approve mayor and city council boards and commissions nominations as revised.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you to the individuals who are willing to serve their community. I am going to administer the oath of office, and then the boards and commission members will be invited behind the podium so that the council members can thank them for their service.
Okay.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of. State your office. According to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations and thank you for your service.
At this time, the mayor will administer the oath of office for Phoenix Municipal Court judges Walter Jackson, James Sapans, Francisca Cota, and Cynthia Gonzalez.
Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of judge according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you for your service to the City of Phoenix. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you too.
Congratulations to our new commissioners and our municipal court judges. We next move to the liquor license portion of the application. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion on liquor licenses?
Yes, we have a motion to approve items 4 through 31, noting that item 7 has been withdrawn by the applicant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. City Clerk, are we ready for ordinances, resolutions, new business, and planning and zoning?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Yes, we have a motion to approve items 32 through 91, except the following: items 36, 39, 42, 48, 50, 53, 57, 63, 87, 88, 90, and 91. Item 89 is continued to February 19, 2020. Item 62 is being withdrawn. And excluding these items for public comment, item 52? Item 52 has been continued to January 29 of 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any additions or corrections? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Yes. Pastor. Stark. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Passes 9-0. We next move to item 36, settlement of claim, Reynolds v. City of Phoenix. Do any council members have comments? Councilmember Garcia.
You want me to go first? Yeah, I don't mind going first. I'm going to be voting against this, Mayor. I don't know if there's a motion on the table. It's a $1.6 million to an individual who is a known felon. This individual was committing crimes. The City of Phoenix did do something wrong, I agree, but this individual is getting $1.6 million of taxpayer money when we have police officers barely making it in the City of Phoenix, barely making it. And we're starting to see these extraordinary fees, and not fees, but these extraordinary settlement amounts because it is this drive at the City of Phoenix to pay off individuals that I believe are committing crimes in our community. And I think it's wrong. I think it's morally wrong. And I'll be voting against it. When we can vote to give our police officers the raise, I mean, I think any police officer would deserve a $1.6 million settlement more than this individual does. So I'll be voting no on this, Mayor, and I think it's just wrong. Thank you.
Councilmember Garcia.
I'm in favor of this item, and I just want to make sure that, as a matter of policy, that we not only, settle this situation, but also make sure that this never happens again. I think what happened was egregious. It was against this person's constitutional rights, regardless of her past. This person's life has been shifted forever because of one of our employees. And so I hope that we not only move forward with this settlement, but make sure that we can build a process where this doesn't happen again. And so I'll be voting in favor of this.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, we need a motion.
Motion to approve item number 36.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes. I mean, no, sorry. Whoa, where have I been? Thank you.
Garcia?
Yes, I thought I had changed your mind.
You were so persuasive.
So yes.
Nowakowski? Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Item passes 7-2.
I think I'm just trying to get along.
We next move to item 39, the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials dues. Certainly an important item as we talk about affordable housing in this community. Do we have a motion?
We have a motion to approve item 39.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for your courtesy on that. I'll be voting against this. This is another membership due. The City of Phoenix spends millions of dollars every single year on membership dues, lobbyists, public relations, when in fact they're completely unnecessary. A lot of this stuff can be done online, and it's still illogical for us to be doing and spending this kind of money, these kinds of taxpayer dollars, when we have so many other needs in the community. So I'll be voting no, Mayor.
Thank you. This organization helps us provide training to our staff and understand best practices in financing housing, which is a key issue in our community. So I will be voting in favor. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
No.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski? Yes. Pastor? Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Item passes 7-2. We next move to item 42.
Mayor, I make the motion to amend Phoenix City Code, Chapter 4, and on item 1, increasing existing and set new commercial ground transportation trip fees for non-rideshare companies and rideshare companies known as transportation network companies, as recommended by staff, effective January 1st, 2020. The year 1 trip fees for pickup and drop-off will be $4 for the GT, for rideshare for 1 to 8 seats, $1.75, 9 to 23 seats, $2.25, 24 plus seats, $5. 2, establish a process to annually adjust trip fees in an effort to maintain a level of cost recovery. All future trip fee adjustments for both non-rideshare and rideshare companies shall increase at the greater of 3% or the consumer price index to keep up with the cost of inflation. For non-rideshare companies, this is effective January 1st, 2021, and for rideshare companies, this is effective January 1st, 2025. 3, provide the following incentives to discount the trip fee rates. A, 10% for each trip made by an alternative fuel-powered vehicle, or 40% for each trip made by a zero-emissions vehicle. And B, 30% for each trip that initiates or terminates at the 44th Street or 24th Street Phoenix SkyTrain station. And 4, make conforming, clarifying, and renumbering changes as necessary. Oh, and the first one, I guess I said February 1, 2020. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for that impressive motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. This item was previously presented by staff and debated on October 16th, 2019 at the City Council formal meeting. The record of the full proceedings from October 16th, 2019 meeting will be incorporated into the record today. We will not repeat the presentation, but I would like to ask that staff come forward in case there are any questions on this particular item. Will the city clerk please read the title?
Item 42 is for ordinance G6650, an ordinance relating to commercial ground transportation at Phoenix airports, amending Phoenix City Code Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 4-4, Article 4, Section 4-67, Section 4-68, Section 4-75, Section 4-77, and Section 4-78, and conforming and renumbering Chapter 4 of the Phoenix City Code as necessary.
Thank you. We have a number of cards here to address the Phoenix City Council. We'll begin with Lizzie Kim of the Phoenix Aviation Advisory Board.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Hello again. I have this intense feeling of deja vu. As you know, I came by last time to say that the Phoenix Aviation Board we became very involved in this issue, and it was unanimously passed by my aviation board at our formal meeting. Today, I am just here to answer any questions, if there are any, since the last time we met.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for your service. Rodney Fallberg. Rodney will be followed by Kurt Magnum.
Thank you. As a member of the working class people of this city, the city of Phoenix, a city that I love, I'm voicing my opposition to this rideshare tax. Why is it once again that the people of this city, the working class members of the city of Phoenix and of this community, are once again being told to shoulder the burden of pet projects from the city of Phoenix? The working class people of this city do not need another tax put on them. We use Uber and Lyft as a means of supplementing our income to make more money because we as working class people struggle and go from paycheck to paycheck. And with rising housing costs in the city of Phoenix, why is it once again that the city of Phoenix has decided that we, members of the public, should shoulder the burden? I don't think this is fair, and nor is it right. I have another proposal instead. Why does not the members of this council consider instead another proposal to lower the salaries of Phoenix City employees who make in excess of $100,000, $200,000, or even $300,000 a year? For example, in 2018, City of Phoenix employee Zucker Edward made an annual wage of $314,999.36. I ask you, is that fair? Not in the least. Another City of Phoenix employee, Dahoney Milton, made around $243,000. I'm sorry, but if there needs to be added infrastructure to the airport or to any city service, then I ask you this: why not instead cut these excessive salaries instead of putting the burden on us, the members of the public? And I'm voicing my opposition to this proposed plan. Thank you very much for hearing me out. Thank you.
Oh, Mayor, to his point, though,
Councilman
too.
DeCiccio?
So this is one of the things I like to do. I like to work on numbers, which that's just salary. That doesn't include all the extra benefits, the Cadillac health benefits that everyone gets, that we get up here too, the pensions, the 401ks, everything else. If you add all that in, you can add in another 35% on top of those numbers easily, and that will give you a true number of what the true cost is. Matter of fact, we have over 13,000 employees in the city of Phoenix with an average compensation of $115,000 per year. So that is the city of Phoenix, and it's actually higher than that this year. This was last year's number. Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilwoman.
I just want to make the comment that Sky Harbor is an enterprise fund. It has to generate its own funds for operations. The salaries of employees, no money comes out of general fund for this. And it is very important that we maintain a quality facility, that we maintain the roads that you're driving on, but that money is totally separate. It gets no tax money at all. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Councilwoman Pastor.
And I want to piggyback on that. Because it's an enterprise, it's a business, and we run it as a business. And just like any of our enterprises, we have to look at our infrastructure, and we have to look at everything that's happening within the airport. On top of that, people are driving and using our streets within the airport, such as Uber and Lyft, and it's all part of a collective and making sure that the airport is at the highest standard that we can have. So just want to make that clear.
Councilman Waring.
So the speaker spoke to an issue near to my heart. I was the one person who voted against the city manager pay raise back in 2012. And I will say this, you'd have to do a lot of salary cutting to save the amount of money that we're talking about here. A lot of this is directed towards the SkyTrain. SkyTrain is $300 million a mile. Our entire general fund is, I think, about $1.3 billion. So it's a quarter of our general fund for every mile, and there's 5 miles. SkyTrain is more than an entire year of city general fund spending. I think my numbers are right. You guys can correct me if you want. So I voted against the SkyTrain, so I'm on fairly safe political footing there as well. I would just say this. I've tried to be consistent. When you look at what it takes to repave a mile of a road like Camelback, it's about $1 million, $1.1 million, something like that. To build a mile like that is about $1 million, $11 million, $11 million, $5, something like that. You can do a lot of road building, is my point, for $300 million per mile for $1.5 billion. When you factor in the concept of riderless cars, perhaps making, or driverless cars, excuse me, making things more efficient, we're not being proactive in looking to the future. We basically built Disneyland's monorail. I had the opportunity to take my kids to monorail this summer, right? I hadn't been on it in years, so we go to Disneyland, and there it is. It was built in like 1954. I wonder if it costs $300 million a mile. It's pretty big. It goes around. It's like 70 years old. I mean, at some point, I look at some of these public structures, the light rail and the SkyTrain in particular, and I just wonder what we're thinking. Do they get enough bang for the buck? Because they're really, really expensive. So basically, to the speaker's point, we could probably cut all the salaries and not be able to afford a mile of SkyTrain. Well, that's probably not true. Maybe 2 miles we could afford. I just, at some point, you know, that's not going to get done. I appreciate the comments, and I have illustrated my agreement with them in my votes over 8 years on this council. But this is such an extravagant project that now we're left to do this. And you're right. The working class person is suffering in this case, and that's wrong. But I'm voting no, so, but at some point, it was probably inevitable once we went down the path of the SkyTrain. Thank you.
Thank you. Kurt will be followed by Piper Overstreet.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council. Piper Overstreet here on behalf of Uber. I want to thank you for again letting me make comments. I'm here once again to ask that you reconsider approving this inequitable tax increase proposal. We have actively engaged in good faith with the airport staff, aviation advisory board members, and you, the City Council. Unfortunately, it seems that you continue to move forward with a tax proposal that is untethered to the year-long benchmarking fee study, and that unfairly penalizes rideshare companies, drivers, and riders. The tax model that resulted in the airport's proposal was shared with Uber just 24 hours before the first public meeting of the advisory board. Since that time, we have consistently voiced our opposition. As such, we have notified the airport and stakeholders that we will cease operations at Sky Harbor in January if this proposal is approved. We are and always have been supportive of paying our fair share. However, this proposal far exceeds what it costs the airport for day-to-day management of TNC operations at Sky Harbor. When we cease operations next month, there will still be thousands of people that need to get to and from the airport. However, the airport will not be recouping any fees from private vehicles or the increased traffic. It seems to me that the airport has cut off its nose to spite its face. Over the past 7 years, we have invested heavily in Arizona and its residents. We are very proud of our Center of Excellence here in downtown Phoenix and the over 600 employees who work there. We are proud of the thousands of hours of volunteer community service with local nonprofit organizations, and we are proud of our national partnership with ASU. Despite this situation, we will continue to be a transportation option for residents and visitors to your city. It's just unfortunate it won't be at the airport.
Mayor? Oh.
Councilwoman Williams.
If I could ask you, you represent Uber, right?
I do, yes.
Do you pay this fee in other airports?
We pay fees at other airports, but there are differences, and I would caution against an apples to oranges comparison. I think in the last meeting and at the airport advisory board meetings, we went through some of the fees.
In comparison of fees, when we were shown the list of where you pay in other airports, I mean, in other places you often pay $10 per pickup and drop off. And I'm just wondering, did you say you were leaving those airports?
So some of those other airports, and I don't know specifically which ones, some of those other airport fees that were listed incorporate other fees like city taxes and other things. So there's, like I said, there's sometimes I've seen in the presentation, there's been an apples to oranges comparison. And we've responded to that. We've provided the information to the airport with regard to that.
Okay. And have you left other airports because of these fees?
We have, but not, to my knowledge, not both TNCs, but Uber, yes. Ontario Airport, I believe, is what you're referring to?
Well, there's several that I have heard, but I've heard that you didn't stay in that status, that you went back and served again.
Yeah, based on the analysis and what we feel is fair and unfair, as I've mentioned previously in all of my public testimony, this is the decision that we're forced to come to here at Sky Harbor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please, we have additional questions.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to stay here as long as you need. I apologize.
So do you serve Chicago Midway?
We do.
Fees of $11.20. Do you serve Chicago O'Hare?
And if I could, just before, and I'm happy to continue, if I could make a note, in the previous meetings that we've attended, I've had my airports expert here. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here because of a family matter. So if there's like really specific airport things, I may not be able to answer.
So you do serve Chicago O'Hare?
Yes.
Do you serve Dallas-Fort Worth?
I believe so.
Do you serve Detroit?
I believe so.
Do you serve San Francisco?
Yes.
Do you serve Houston?
I believe so.
Do you serve Los Angeles? Do you
Yes.
serve DC National?
Yes.
Do you serve DC Dulles?
Yes.
So Phoenix is the 12th largest airport in the nation, located in the fastest growing city and fastest growing county in the nation. The 9 other airports have similar or higher fees than the one being considered here today. 4 of these airports do not even offer curbside rideshare service, as Sky Harbor does. In fact, both DC airports just raised their pickup and drop-off fees for rideshare companies to $5. And yet Uber and Lyft have not threatened to pull out of either of those markets?
I can't get into what the negotiations have been, but I do have intricate knowledge of the negotiations here. And again, I will go back to my earlier statement. We haven't said we're not willing to support an increase. That's not what this is about. But when we get notice after participating in a benchmarking study that, oh, hey, this fee that we're proposing is not in any way tied to this, we're actually going well above that amount, that's concerning, especially when it's tied to 80% of the SkyTrain, operation and maintenance of the SkyTrain. So I think that would be my response to any of these specific questions about other airports that you have.
We want to have a top airport in this community. We want to provide cutting-edge investments. We want to be globally competitive. And so we want to compete with the other airports that are investing and managing their curbs. Councilmember Garcia.
Oh.
Is there a specific reason why these other markets might be more important or seem to be more important than Phoenix Harbor?
I don't think it's about importance, but none of the others have a O&M of their SkyTrain fees involved in our T&C fees, or ground transportation operations.
So are you saying that it's not worth this investment to be a part of our market?
No, that's not at all what I'm saying.
Councilwoman Pastor.
So, Mr. Bennett, can you tell me the process and explain to me the process? Because what I just heard was Uber was not part of the process. And I just need to understand where the truth lies.
Mayor, to Councilwoman Pastor, if I may, I would ask that Jordan Feld walk you through that process, because he was the lead staff individual that was engaged with the rideshare companies for well over a year throughout the process of the study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mayor, Councilmember Pastor, appreciate the question. All of the GT stakeholders were involved on the front end of the process, including Uber, which meant that they drove the scope of work that we undertook to compare the airports. Uber, as well as other stakeholders, all identified the need to clarify in our data collection whether or not these fees were a per-trip fee or included a permit or other tax or profit sharing. And so all that information is detailed in the benchmarking report, but the numbers that we use to show the comparison trip fee rates are purely trip fee rates. So to answer that part of the question, but then back to procedurally, stakeholders like Uber specifically were involved in the front end, during the process, and at the end of the process when we shared the final benchmarking results, we then quickly developed a recommendation that Uber, the rest of the stakeholders were also involved in reviewing and commenting on. So throughout the process from soup to nuts.
So they were part of the process, they were invited to the process, they could choose in the middle to participate and choose in the end or any part of the process, but every step of the way they were invited to be part of the process.
That is correct.
My question is, did they participate 100% throughout the process?
Mayor, council member, appreciate the clarifying question. They were very involved at the front of the process and very involved at the end of the process. They may have called in for some of the meetings during the process, but they didn't identify themselves, so I can't track that, but certainly very involved in the front and end of the process.
Okay. Could you please clarify if this is a tax?
Mayor, to Councilwoman Pastor, this is not a tax. This is rent. All of the businesses that operate at Sky Harbor Airport pay rent, and that rent constitutes either cost recovery or fair market value for accessing the commercial market and using the airport facilities that we provide. And this is the way we charge rent for this category of users, ground transportation providers. We have roughly 700 permitted ground transportation providers at the airport, and each of those 700 charge their rental through a trip fee policy that was first instituted in 2016.
I have one more question. If Uber and Lyft were to leave the market, I would like to know that there are different routes or different, vehicles, I don't know what to exactly to use the term, but there are other ways to get to the airport, and customers would have the ability to have different choices.
Mayor to Councilwoman Pastor, that is correct. As I mentioned, there are roughly 700 permitted ground transportation operators. And I know it's difficult because, we're all users of Uber and Lyft. Even all of us as we sit here today are all users of Uber and Lyft. However, it's difficult to remember that prior to June of 2016, everyone was able to access the airport before the introductions of Uber and Lyft, and all of those mechanisms that were available then are still available to people today, either light rail to the SkyTrain station, or family members picking up and dropping off, or other for-hire transportation services that are permitted to operate at the airport.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you're hearing is government spin about how to label this not a tax. It's a tax. We all know intuitively what this is. There are people in our community that love you guys. I love you. I love Uber. I love Lyft. I use you guys on a regular basis. The impact that you're going to have here, Piper, and you've got to draw a line somewhere is basically what I'm hearing from your company. It's like you can't be pounded and pounded and pounded. What's interesting in government is that you can pound away at these individual businesses. Sooner or later, they're going to say, we're not working with you anymore. They're going to go somewhere else because it's a portable economy. So this pounding that you're getting today, I apologize for that, because I think as a business owner, we respect you, we appreciate you, we want to keep you. But I fully understand what's happening here. You just can't take it any longer. And what I don't think that the public really understands is that this is, when we talk about these 700, how many of you and anybody that's listening out there have heard of any of these other 700? Who've heard of them? Who's using them? Well, okay, one. All right, you'll see it up here, but I'll bet you anything else. Anybody out there? Just a couple? Oh, yeah, okay. We got taxi users, good, thank you. So I love that. So at the end of the day, what you're gonna have is, this is a middle-class situation, and these are the individuals that use this because they can get to the airport for 15, 16 bucks. Now they're not going to have that ability, and if at the end of the day these taxes end up going on the middle class, that is who's going to be paying for this. The people that are wealthy and rich, they can always afford to get to the airport. Government officials can always find a ride over there. Most people work during the day. They can't ride a person, or a neighbor, or a friend to the airport. That's how a lot of people got to the airport. And so also included in this, you've got the ability for the airport to indiscriminately, continually raise this. So this whole idea that now we're calling it rent, it changes every day, the term. Do not believe the government spin. Do not believe what you're hearing when you hear all this BS, because that's what it is. It's a tax on the public, it's a tax on the middle class, and it's literally driving businesses out. We're going to be the first city in the nation where businesses are going to be driving out of the city, and it's morally wrong.
So I guess our message, or at least my message, is that Phoenix is a global city. We want to invest in a first-class airport. We want to invest in Phoenicians. We would ask you to invest in your drivers just the way we invest in our citizens.
And we do, and I thank you for your questions, Madam Mayor and members of the council, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Any other questions? Andrew Cohn will be next.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. I mentioned last time it was the first time in 30 years I've stood at this podium. This is now the second time on the same topic. I'm going to practice something that I caution you all to do and the rest of the speakers, and that's to practice word economy. I do not have a political stake in what goes on here. We don't need to be politically efficient. Uber and Lyft are great providers. I use them. The airport needs them. It's important. This is costing them nothing. If this is a market-driven economy, the market will settle in. Uber and Lyft pass these fees all on to their customers. We need to protect these drivers to make sure that they're getting what they need. I wrote an op-ed. First time ever, my third grade teacher would be amazed I was able to cobble together that many words. And the truth of the matter is the response I got was overwhelming from drivers saying, wait, look, we really appreciate your comments. It's important that the city understand this. Uber and Lyft participated in a process of over 12 months, whether they were heavily involved at the beginning and heavily involved at the end and partially involved in the middle. That was an election they made. I made that comment last time. They made an election to back out. They don't pay these fees. They've captured a great part of this market. Since this last hearing we had, we became the #1 airport in this country. You mean to tell me a company that's got a market cap of X dollars, whose CEO is making tens of millions of dollars, is going to pull out of the #1 airport in the country? We just opened a freeway today of $1.3 billion in cost to help manage Uber to get around the valley better. You mean to tell me they're going to leave this town? And you know what? If they leave, that shows poor decision-making on the part of their leadership, which would lead one to believe they're not going to be in business in 5 or 10 years anyway. And like I said in my op-ed, if they want us to delete the app and not use them, we'll do that. It irritates me to no end to have somebody stand here and tell us that we don't compare to the other cities, Mayor, that you mentioned. This city is growing in leaps and bounds with great community, with great effort. I don't want to hear about city managers' salaries. I don't want to hear about it. That is inappropriate, in my opinion. Those decisions were made by a former council. Live by it, and if you don't like it, you folks change it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John DePippa.
Hello again. Hi, Mayor and City Council. Southwest flight attendant. I was here last time. And I just wanted to thank you guys for keeping our parking rate caps and our discounts in place. So that's really all I had to say. And thank you, and Merry Christmas to all of you.
He practiced word economy. I like that.
Is Kurt Magnum here? Okay. Michelle Newcomb. And Michelle will be followed by Dennis Ridley.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Michelle Newcomb, and I live in Coronado District, District 4, and around 16th Street in McDowell. I'm an airport operation assistant, and I've been in this position for 13 years. I'm here today to give the information regarding rideshare vehicles. Our duties are to assist, respond to fire, police, traffic accidents, security, compliance, and answer customers' questions. Our main job is to keep the traffic flowing in and out of the airport. The top priority is the safety of our employees, passengers, and customers. Many of the rideshare drivers do not follow the directions of the airport personnel. The response is, I do not know the rules for picking up at the airport. I've read and I've heard a lot of rapes, violence, murders by rideshare drivers across the country. And I'm not surprised when I see drivers attacking each other, hitting other vehicles with their hands, and yelling at passengers because they pulled into their rideshare area. Also, the drivers are loading in the main boulevard. You're looking at a lot of safety issues, and thank God we have not had any major accidents of injuries. We use a lot of resources each time we respond to rideshare. We have written citations, notice of violations, and they've been suspended. When one rideshare vehicle is suspended, we get 5 more new vehicles and we start all over again. As I said before, the main concern, again, is safety for our passengers, customers, and employees. We do not have control of rideshare as we do with other ground transportation. We know some of the drivers by face. Also, we have permits, license plates, and vehicle numbers that matches who is driving that vehicle. And I want to say thank you for hearing me out, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Dennis will be followed by Joya Clerk.
Mayor, councilmen and women, thank you for your time. I'll keep this short. I implore the city not to get in bed with these companies until we take care of the immediate problem and resolve which is driver exploitation. Currently, drivers are underpaid and put in harm's way day in and day out on our roads and the airport. Most don't have health insurance nor savings and are caught up in the rental car scheme that has seemed to have taken over more lately. They pay much more in taxes and are being ill-informed every day, and they are caught up in the so-called businesses. The public has received deeply discounted services at drivers' expenses. It's easy to say quit if you don't like it. I wish it was that simple. If it were that simple, we wouldn't need labor laws or unions. I, like most drivers, signed up to make extra cash, make extra income, supplementary income, to bring in to take care of what I need to take care of and to live. However, a lot of drivers like myself are then caught up into buying or renting a vehicle and then trapped for paying for it. I never intended to start an organization or to be involved with drivers or to advocate for drivers such as myself. But after witnessing the exploitations firsthand, I could no longer sit idly by, and I had to say something. I understand that rideshare has offset other industries at the airport, but I'd like to ask that you please take a closer look at the shady business practices that they are employing before we start taking money from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Clerk will be followed by John Riches.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Joya Kaiser Clark. I am the second generation president and CEO of Casa Unlimited Enterprises. My family-owned business has been doing business at Sky Harbor as retail concessionaires for over 30 years. We started when Terminal 4 was built in 1990. I think that as part of the business infrastructure of the airport, people that generate income from doing business at Sky Harbor, it's a privilege. And part of our responsibility and part of the understandings for those of us that compete to do business at the airport is that there's additional cost involved in maintaining the infrastructure as a whole, as the place that we do business and make a successful living from. So I think that what we get tied up in this margin discussion, if we use business terms, is largely made up by volume. And that's why we want to be at the airport. That's why businesses like to be at the airport. That's why it's beneficial for taxi, retail, food, the airlines. There's a lot of people there. And so there's some limitations in the business discussion around fairness in where those fees are going, if the customers are eating those fees versus the businesses are eating those fees. And so I just wanted to thank the council for our years and the opportunities that the court has given us to be successful as a family and as business owners and to share our experiences with our customers and with our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Riches will be followed by Greg Torres.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is John Riches. I'm the Director of National Litigation at the Goldwater Institute. Setting aside all of the policy reasons as to why this is phenomenally bad policy, and there are many, from the fact that visitors to this state, their first impression will be getting hit with an enormous fee, to the drivers who rely on this, sometimes as second and third jobs, to the passengers who this is the most inexpensive and efficient way to get to the airport. You're going to hit them with the fee. Setting all that aside, if council decides to move ahead with this proposal, it will be doing so in direct violation of the Arizona Constitution. It has not even been a year since voters overwhelmingly passed Proposition 126. The plain and unambiguous language of that constitutional amendment states any city in this state is prohibited from imposing or increasing any fee on any service performed in the state. End quote. Is this a fee? Absolutely. The city itself has called this a fee. It's called a fee in the materials in front of you. You're seeking to amend a portion of city code labeled fees. This argument that it's somehow a rent is so phenomenally foolish, it hardly even warrants a serious response. If two college students are sharing gas money and one of them drops the other off at the airport, are they renting the curbside? If I took an Uber to the courthouse or here to this chamber, am I renting curbside space? Of course not. You may not like Proposition 126. You may wish the language of our Constitution was different. You may claim to really need this money. All of that is irrelevant. The law is what it is. The Constitution says what it says. And make no mistake, if you pass this proposal, you will not only be putting in place one of the most punishing policies this city has considered, but you will be behaving illegally. You will have to explain that to your constituents, most of whom are low and middle income. First of all, why you're charging them to get a cheap ride to the airport, and second, why you did so in blatant disregard of the Constitution. And no doubt you'll have to do that very same explaining to a judge.
Mayor?
Councilman DeCiccio.
I had a couple questions. One, just a full disclosure, the Goldwater lawsuit, the Goldwater Institute, which I love, is looking at bringing a lawsuit against the City of Phoenix. I will testify on your behalf, just putting it there, if you would like to that. I will also work at the legislature to try to get this thing fixed. I've done that before in the past, and I'm going to do it again. But let me ask you a couple questions. If dealing with Prop 106, well, basically 126, but the 1487 deals with state shared revenues. Tell us the impact of that.
The Arizona legislature passed what's commonly known as 1487, and what that allows is any member of the state legislature can send a letter to the Attorney General whereby alleging that a municipality has violated a provision of the Arizona Constitution. The Attorney General then has 30 days to investigate. The Attorney General can make one of three findings. Yes, in fact, that is true. You have violated the Constitution, in which case the Attorney General can direct the state treasurer to withhold the city's share of shared revenue. The Attorney General also has the option of submitting this directly to the Arizona Supreme Court for expedited review.
And so then when you're talking about litigation under Prop 126, it deals with a lot of the newer fees and stuff, but this would be a newer fee, correct?
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Or newer tax. This would be considered a newer tax that would be imposed.
Well, it's irrelevant as to whether it's a fee or a tax. The plain language of Proposition 126 prohibits the imposition of new fees or the increase of existing fees, which the city has already said this is a fee.
And then, so what happens with the fee that the city's already charging, the $2.66? What financial impact is it going to have at the city?
That would likely, that fee that's currently in place would likely remain in place, but any increase on that fee would be susceptible to a Prop 126 challenge. And of course, the brand new drop-off fee of $5 by 2024 is a brand new fee, which would plainly be susceptible to Prop 126 challenge.
And so if Uber and Lyft end up leaving, what's the fine? Does the city of Phoenix collect anything at all at that point? They don't even get the 266.
That's a great point, Councilman Ciccio. And by the way, if the council decides to pass this, this would be the first time that a major airport in the United States of America had no ride-sharing services that were serving it. And if that happened, the city of Phoenix would lose the tremendous amount of revenue that's already provided from that 266, which is north of $5 million a year. So by this vote, the city council is not only depriving all Phoenicians of the ability to get cheap and efficient ride-share services, they are costing themselves $5 million.
And then question to airport staff, how do we identify the Uber and Lyft drivers, the ride-share today? How do they get identified, and how do we know who they are?
Mayor to Councilman DeCiccio, the current code requires Uber and Lyft vehicles to properly display trade dress. In other words, kind of the Uber and or Lyft emblem in the windshields of their vehicles. And then also our operations agents randomly interact with the drivers when they pull up to check their app to make sure that they are in fact an Uber and or a Lyft driver authorized to be picking up at the airport. So we do random spot checking on the individuals as well as inspections to make sure that the trade dress is appropriately displayed in the vehicles.
So when that was passed, because I was here and I voted against that too, since that point, do you have contracts with the Uber and Lyft entities at this point?
Mayor, to Councilman DeCiccio, that is correct. We have written agreements with both Uber and Lyft, as well as all of the other permitted operators at the airport, which respond to the terms and the conditions for doing business on the airport property.
And I'd like to get a copy of each one of those things.
Mayor, to Councilman DeCiccio, certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You may sit down. Oh, okay. And we deserve the same fees that every other airport gets. We are not a city running on the cheap. Councilman Waring.
Mr. Riches, so the 1487 is a relatively new tool, I guess for lack of a better word, that the legislature came up with a couple of years ago. Has it been used before? Have cases gone to the Supreme Court? I mean, I guess I know the answer, but I'm just curious for the audience's interest, what's happened with some of those?
Sure, Councilman Waring.
Not all of them, but examples, I guess.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, the 1487 has been before, 1487 complaints, I should say, have been before the Arizona Supreme Court. The Arizona Supreme Court has upheld it. There have been situations where the Attorney General has found an outright violation of state law or the state constitution, in which case the Attorney General directed the Treasurer to withhold state shared revenue, and then the city or municipality had 30 days to decide whether or not they wanted to change their action. So yes, it certainly has been used, and in a case like this where the law is so perfectly clear, I can't imagine that it wouldn't be.
So Mayor, if I could just follow up with that. So 1487, that's active. There was some debate about whether that was going to be found to be constitutional, but they're using it and it's happening. So if a legislator does file a complaint, my recollection, for example, a case that went to the Supreme Court, a gun case out of Tucson, if I recall, that moved pretty quickly, right? They expedite that. The Attorney General, I think, sent it directly to the courts, and it moved its way through pretty quickly. But at the same time, assuming that would be the case here, I don't know why it would be different. Maybe there's some legal reason. What would happen to the fees that have been collected in the interim? Because I assume there's thousands of rides a day. It's racking up pretty quick. If the city were to lose, so the example you talked about where cities have, or the examples that have happened where cities had to change their policies, do we pay the money back? Who do we pay it to? It's presumably also been passed along to the consumers, so there, I mean, how does all that work? Or is there any, are we driving while blind? I mean,
Councilman Warren, I think it's very difficult to say what would happen to already collected illegally collected fees. I think that would depend on how the relief was fashioned by the court, and we just don't know what that would be at this point.
Because that's been a case, the car rental tax case, I think that was an issue, like who do you even pay it back to? So it gets complicated, I guess I'd say. And it sounds like if it only takes one legislature, out of the 90, you can pretty much rest assured somebody's going to do it, I would think. So,
Councilman Warren, it certainly could get
in the new year, I guess.
Certainly could get complicated. The one thing that couldn't or would not get complicated is one of the requests for relief would certainly be an injunction against these fees, so that they could not be imposed going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. If I can ask the question of our attorney. So if we were to have a legislator question what we did, we still have the right then to change our vote. We can go back and reevaluate, and then we wouldn't have any penalty of state shared revenues, correct?
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, yes, Prop 1487 gives the city an opportunity to come into compliance. We could theoretically still have to pay some fees and so on, but we would not lose our shared revenue in that case.
So that's something we could think of, and quite frankly, if we get to that, maybe we should just let the airport be its own governing authority and get out of the business and just pay them, charge them rent, let them take care of it and run it like a business. I'd be for that.
Thank you. Mr. Torres.
Mayor and Council, Gregory Torres. Family business has been here for over 70 years, and we've had a cost of doing business ever since and continue to this day. My company, Torres International, was lucky to be a part of Sky Harbor in 1999, And I understood clearly there's a cost of doing business at the airport. Boils down to, in my opinion, all of this conversation to what's fair and what's reasonable. And I think the item has been discussed at length. I believe Mr. Bennett and his team have gone above and beyond. 3 years ago, when they were tasked to make this Uber, Lyft, or this TNC model fit, they went through a lot of work. The good news, they put a caveat to come back and look at that model. As you have said, Mayor, across this nation, there are airports charging more than what is being proposed by Director Bennett and his team. The one thing that got overlooked is that in some of the airports, they pay a percentage of the total revenue. The director and the team didn't go that route. They went to a fair and reasonable approach. TNCs are here to stay. They're not going anywhere. They probably represent about 70% of the market now in our city. And so they should pay their fair share of that volume and do that cost of doing business and that overhead and everything that's involved at our airport. I think it's a fair and reasonable ask. It's easily done. It's accepted already by them across the nation. So I support you voting it and bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ricardo Carlo, followed by Stephen Kierlieber. Stephen K.
Mayor and Council, my name is Ricardo Carlo, and I am the president of the Associated Minority Contractors of Arizona. And I deal with small business contractors year in and year out, and they always have to increase in fees in doing business on a daily basis. And they do a lot of work out here at the airport, and they cover those fees as well. Now, the thing with the airport being an enterprise, it can't operate at the same function of keeping the cost the same for the next 5 or 10 years. There has to be some increases, and everybody absorbs that, not just the airport itself. The other thing is that we still have transportation modems out there that we can still utilize. And before Uber and Lyft came into town, we utilized them, and we utilized them well. The other thing is that if you're looking at taxi drivers, to be a certified taxi driver, you have to buy a placard. That's $145,000 that they invest so they can operate their vehicle. So I think it's all fair, and I'm in favor of Prop 42.
Stephen will be followed by Jeff Golden.
Thank you, Council, and Mayor Kate Gallego. So I'm a real estate agent, and also I drive for Uber and Lyft. Just wanted to give my input on this particular matter that's set forth. So I currently work as a real estate agent with low-income families. My main clients are refugees from the Congo, and they happen to just find work working at the airport for most of their jobs and everything. I can't say that they take Uber and Lyft the majority of the time, but at least half the time they're taking Uber and Lyft. So this increase, if they were to take it 5 days a week to get to work, it'd be an extra $200 a month for them. So then the other alternatives to them getting to work would be taking the Valley Metro services, so it'd be like the light rail and then to SkyTrain from there. But that particular system is just way too long. Like, it would take them quite a few hours to get to work, at least over 2 hours. So I don't think it's fair for them. So then that's just one example of many low-income families that might be working at the airport. So that fee would be passed on to them because they're the consumer. So then if they're able to initiate this tax at the airport, what's stopping them from initiating tax in the future towards ride shares for dropping people off out in the other city for other large City of Phoenix projects? I just don't think it's an efficient way. Maybe if you were to charge people, then you'd have to charge it fairly, not just to ride shares, but also the same tax to taxi cab drivers as well. So with that, I'll just say that I hope you vote no on this bill here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Golden is followed by Joe DeBazar.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Golden. I'm Vice President of the Arizona Limousine Association. Arizona Limousine Association, well, we represent those other 700 companies. Oh, excuse me. Because of the unfair practices, we're losing Super Shuttle. Thank you, Uber and Lyft for eliminating a very, very good partner. We're in favor of 42. We understand that we are building and improving an airport. We are a world-class city. I just came back from China, and what I've seen over there is unbelievable. We are behind the curve. We need to go ahead and raise this up. And let me tell you, I forgot to say that we're not going to extort and promise you we're going to leave if you don't vote our way. I'm listening to this and I'm going, come on, folks. That's exactly what they're doing. They're going to hold their breath until you change your vote. No, they're still going to be there. They're going to pay their fair way and so on and so forth. By the way, those 700 companies, we've been paying a fair way long before Uber and Lyft ever came into this area. Thank you.
My name is Keith Clifton. I'm with the Arizona Limousine Association, also past president. Just wanted to say we are against it, and we hope that you'll see it our way. Thank you.
Joe will be followed by Kareem Johnson.
Good afternoon, Mayor and the City Council members. My name is Joe, and then since 1986, we've been working under the different contracts. They always follow the rules, city codes requested by the Sky Harbor. We came with the new cars. They asked the CNG, all the alternative fuels, we did it. And also screening the drivers, background checks, and put them to work in about, it takes us a week just to screen them. In 2008, fee went up from the $200 a year to the $16,000 a year. We honored it. They're talking about they pulling out off the airport. We brag about this airport. It's a clean airport. They're not the only TNC companies at the airport. There are more TNC companies at the airport. Even if today airport director or the staffs, they ask us to double, triple our fleet, we are willing to do so. And the last part, we don't do the search, and we're just gonna go with the rules and regulations of the Sky Harbor and the City of Phoenix. Thank you.
Councilman Nowakowski, if you'll give Councilman Nowakowski a second, thank you.
Mayor, about 10 years ago, we went through a whole contract with ground transportation for the airport, and it was about 2 days that we had hearings from the different taxi companies, van services, limousines, and all. Could you recall the rules and regulations, Mr. Bennett, for the taxis that they must obey to operate in our airport?
Mayor, to Councilman Nowakowski, are you talking about, are we referencing the current differences between the rideshare companies and the taxi industry?
Correct,
1 second here, and so one of the primary differences that was mentioned is the fact that our taxi industry, they're under contract with the city. And we do a competitive solicitation, and we select taxi companies to provide service. And with those contracts, there becomes a responsibility. One is that the fees that we charge to those companies, we do not allow them to pass that on to the customer. That's their rent or their cost of doing business.
So what is the fee?
They pay a per-trip fee. Currently, they're paying the same fee as the Ubers and the Lyfts, but they're not contractually allowed to pass that on to their customers. We also, they're required to provide the city with a letter of credit. The rideshare companies have no responsibilities in that regard. And also on the fees, the rideshare companies, we do not regulate how they handle the fees that we charge them to do business on the airport. We require the taxi companies via contract to provide service to the airport 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. And there are no requirements as such for rideshare companies. We also have a contractual requirement that no one can wait longer than 5 minutes for a taxi to pick up, and we do not have that requirement. The fares that the taxi companies can charge from the airport are set by Phoenix City Code, and they cannot adjust those fares without us coming back and requesting approval from the council to make those adjustments. So they do not have the ability to do anything like surge pricing or adjustments to their fees on an hourly basis or daily basis. We have requirements on lost and found, so if you lose something in a taxi, we have a timeline on when they're supposed to be able to return that to people. We have requirements on the fleet age of the vehicles, making sure that the fees are adequately displayed in the vehicles. They're required to use alternatively fuel vehicles, vehicle inspections. They have to have a supervisor available to respond within 10 minutes. The drivers must pass a test including information about maps, the rules and regulations of the airport, and area knowledge, and as was previously mentioned, undergo a criminal history, FBI criminal history records check, fingerprint-based, as well as a Transportation Security Administration security threat assessment. And then, of course, we have penalty clauses if they violate certain terms of the contracts.
And
none
so
of
many
those
vehicles for people with disabilities too, right?
that is correct. That is correct.
So my problem is this, is that it's not apples to apples or oranges to oranges. We're not treating the taxi company fairly as we are with Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft are allowed to basically have older cars, making sure that our environment is clean. That's one of the things that we put into the taxi contract is alternative fuel. The Uber Lyft doesn't have to do that. The whole safety background checks basically is in-house. Taxis are not. It's a certified agency that we approved. Basically, the $5 fee is not passed on to the individuals that are using that service as taxi service, but Uber and Lyft could pass that on to the individuals. Also, if it happens to be a holiday and there's a lot of business and there's a big demand, the fee for a taxi cab is the same as it would be on a slow day. So you can't add, or would you call that shift a surcharge or whatever it is? Surge, okay. So I think I think that what we're trying to do in the city of Phoenix is treat everyone fairly. If you're a taxi driver, we're going to treat you the same way that we treat an Uber and Lyft individual. And that's what we're about, fairness. And I feel bad. I feel bad for all those Lyfts and Uber drivers that come and complain to us. We can't really do anything. You all have to go back and talk to the company about those rights that you all feel that you don't have. I know those individuals have approached myself and some of my other colleagues, but we can't really do anything, or we as a city can't turn around and ask the company to up your guys' drive times or whatever the cost. We can't do that. So I think that what we're trying to do here is making sure that it's an even playing field, that everybody's treated the same way. And if you're going to do business at the airport, if you're a restaurant, you're going to pay a rental fee. If you're a store, you're going to have to rent a spot from the airport. We can't just have anybody just driving in to the airport and setting up a store or a restaurant. You can't do that. So that's what we're trying to do, is making sure that the rental, if you're going to be using our airport, that everybody's treated the same. And I think this is about being treated the same. We have individuals that are poor individuals that drive these taxi cabs. And we heard their testimony 10 years ago, and I heard the testimony just 3 years ago when we renewed the contract, and we'll continue to support you all. And we understand what you're going through, and we're going to make sure that everybody's treated the same at our airport and in our great city of Phoenix. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor.
I have a question regarding the background checks. Because with the taxis and other vehicles that enter of the 700, we require that there's a background check so that we know who's coming into the airport and who's leaving the airport. We know that for safety purposes, we want to know who's entering and leaving, but also for safety purposes of the customer and our constituents that use the airport. Can you explain, does Uber and Lyft go through that process, through our city process? Because I know we have a great mechanism on making sure that we know who's driving.
Mayor, to Council Member Pastor, the council may recall back in 2016 that issue of background investigations was the challenge that we were trying to overcome because the state law does not require Uber and or Lyft drivers to undergo a criminal history records check, fingerprint-based, such as we require at the airport, and they did not want to comply with our rules and regulations. And so in order to accommodate them at the airport, this council, adjusted the city code requirements to allow them to conduct their own background checks, whatever that might involve, for their own drivers. But the other permittees at the airport, they undergo that criminal history records check.
So do we know who's entering into our airport with Uber and Lyft?
Mayor, to Councilmember Pastor, no, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Johnson, you have been enormously patient. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor.
And Mr. Johnson will be followed by Dan Puente.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to thank you for giving me this time to speak. I'm currently a part-time driver with Uber. I own my own limo company as well, and I'm also a customer. I use the service, and I think the service is extremely convenient. But what I would like to deal with is some facts that we're glossing over here. Since 2016 of June, the going rate to do business in the airport for a driver, if he was to charge a customer, it was roughly $2 a mile. If you needed a ride out of the airport, that was the going rate. The market set that rate. Currently, right now, Lyft is charging as low as 22 cents a mile. Uber is charging as low as 60 cents a mile. That's on the backs of the drivers. If they hadn't slashed the drivers' fees over 150% over the last 3 years, they wouldn't be in here crying and complaining about paying more to do business in the airport. The problem is that they're just not charging enough. I've heard a number of people come up here talk about how cheap the service is, how cheap it is to get to and from. We don't view ourselves as cheap. And to the gentleman here, I don't think it's BS for us to increase our fares, and earn a fair wage in this town. I don't know if you've noticed, but in the Maricopa County, the price of houses has doubled in some areas. The price of more rents have doubled in some areas. So for Uber to stand here and complain about a measly little $4 increase to do business in an airport that's world class, there's no mistake about it. Phoenix Sky Harbor is a world-class airport. When you go there, there are 3 lots that are designated for the drivers where we can use restrooms, there are microwaves, there's even a prayer section for people to go out there and pray. When you go to Mesa Gateway, there's just a dirt lot. There's no restrooms, there's nothing for the drivers. So I say increase the price to do business in the airport, and let's continue advancing this airport as a world-class facility.
Thank you. Dan Puente will be followed by our final card, Dave Warren.
Mayor and council members, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am the founder and CEO of DP Electric. I'm an Arizona native that started my company in 1990 after being in the field learning the trade for 10 years after I graduated high school. I am here today to support the airport and the increased fee to put Phoenix in line with other major cities. I'm also here to voice my opinion and dispel the myth that the airport is not pro-business, and in fact, the airport and the city of Phoenix has supported small businesses and the minority community for as long as I can remember, and still does today. As in my case, I started working for the city of Phoenix in 1995 as a small minority contractor. These opportunities allowed me to show my abilities to work with my all partners and afforded me the opportunity to build trust with these firms in the city of Phoenix. In 2006, I graduated from the SBE program, and today we continue to work at the airport now as a prime subcontractor, employing SBE companies and mentoring those companies to be successful. It is opportunities like that that have allowed the growth of our company to become what it is today, employing 300 people. The city of Phoenix, and more importantly the airport, is an economic engine that employs and supports many businesses to thrive and be successful. This increase is merely aligning a growing airport to be in line with other airports across the U.S. and asking these share right companies to pay their fair share. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our final speaker, our final citizen request to speak card comes from Dave Warren.
Hi, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Dave Warren. I own a company called Blue Sky Airport Parking, located at University in the 143 in Phoenix. I've been up here a bunch of times over the past, I don't know how many number of years. This is not a new issue to us, talking about fees that are charged to ground transportation providers at the airport. As many of people on the airport staff know, and some of the City Council members know, I've been very vocal about this issue. I went from paying, and we're a pretty small company, paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year to serve the airport to, I think this year we're paying $130,000 to $140,000 a year. And that's a lot of money for my company. It comes right out of the bottom line, and that's very noticeable. Having said that, those fees we pay. And I will say this, you know, the airport and us have a deep relationship. It's been acrimonious at times. It's been kind of difficult at times, but we've always been listened to. And I think the airport has worked with us. This process that we're talking about here, this report and the study process, has been a year-long process. And it was a process that we knew we were going to all be going into. So all of the ground transportation providers, if they've been paying attention, they knew that we were going to enter into this process, which was a very involved process over the last year. And I think that's the perspective I can speak from, because I was very involved in that process. And everything we're talking about today is just an outcome of that report and study. And it was very, very detailed, the consultant selection, the stage-by-stage process throughout the study, the various drafts that were done and circulated to all of the stakeholders. Everybody had an opportunity to participate in this. It was either time well spent or time wasted on my side. I don't know which it's going to be yet, but it was a lot of time spent going through what I think is a fair process. And again, I'm a bit conflicted on this because I don't like paying the fees. But I will say, and I can speak to, from a personal standpoint, it was a fair process and an open and transparent process that the airport went through, and that's probably as much as I can add. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for your testimony. That is all of our request to speak cards. We do have 37 cards marked in favor. Many are available to speak if requested, but perhaps we will not request, and then one opposed. Council member comments. Councilmember Garcia.
Yeah. I don't appreciate the fact that we've attempted to be bullied here today, and the tactics of both saying that or disrespect of saying that our airport isn't worth it is not okay. The other threats of lawsuits, the threats of the state legislature is going to come and tell us what to do, aren't also okay. I think for For a long time, we've been subsidizing these corporations. They've been using our roads, they've been using our facilities, and it's time that they pay their fair share. That they don't push it onto the drivers, but that these corporations actually pay their fair share. And just like every other company at the airport, continue to work with us to make sure that our airport is the best. Again, like I did last time, I urge the drivers to continue to organize, to push back on the corporation so you do get treated fairly. I was really excited to see 2 drivers stand up here today and speak to that. I hope that continues. And again, for the corporations of Lyft and Uber, I hope that they feel so strongly about this that they actually take some of the fees themselves and make sure not to pass it on to the drivers and riders. So I'm in support of this item once again.
Councilman DeCiccio.
Sorry, I probably covered some of these already. So I want to bring it back to the basics. We've heard a lot of things, but the bottom line is that this will have a major impact on middle-class Arizona, not just the city of Phoenix, but throughout the entire state of Arizona. The airport is an economic engine for the entire state. If Uber and Lyft leave, this will create a negative impact, not just here to the individuals, but across the nation. It will reverberate across the entire country. Phoenix will be known as an anti-business, anti-worker city. Because if you look at it, the individuals that use this are the people that can least afford it. You've heard one individual go up there and talk about it. The people that need it, the ones that that this is important to them to be able to get this. They may not have family members around, but they do have, they have to get to the airport either to work or to be able to get on the plane. And those individuals that cannot afford to pay our extraordinary fees at parking or to pay for a taxi service are the ones that are going to be left out. The middle class America is going to be screwed with this vote. The other part of it is that if you look at it when it comes down to fees and whether or not this is a fee or tax, it's a tax, but call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. It's still going to be an impact. When the city of Phoenix raised fees on individuals on after-school programs of $30 every 2 months. People like myself were probably like, well, that's probably okay to do that, right? You know what ended up happening? 62% of those kids no longer did the after-school programs because that extra $30 over a 2-month period had that big of an impact on their family income. Look, a lot of the individuals that are here, I imagine we can afford certain things like that. There are people in our community that cannot afford this. This is for real. This is what happened. And so if you think that an extra $5 is no big deal to some people, it is a huge deal to some people to be able to get to and from where they need to go. We respect the fact that we love Uber, we love Lyft, we love rideshare, and we love you taxi drivers as well too. We think there's a lot of room in here for individuals to be part of our economy. We will be driving out, the city of Phoenix will be driving out ride sharing from our airport, and that is a fact. That is what's going to happen with this vote today. The other point is that this is against the law. The voters passed overwhelmingly that Proposition 126 overwhelmingly passed, no tax on services. Uber, Lyft, taxis, service. They are a service industry. And this tax is illegal. It will not hold up in court, and the city of Phoenix could lose state-shared revenues. Dave Warren, I love you, man. You're a good guy. You started as a small business owner. Appreciate you doing work here in the city of Phoenix. Just want to let you know that. You've done everything right your entire life, and you're an honest, upright guy. Thank you for being here today. That's it, Mayor. Thank you. I'm going to be voting no on this.
For our city attorney, have you looked at the legal issues raised by Mr. Riches, and what did we conclude?
Mayor, members of the council, yes. Law department staff has looked at these issues at length and researched them. We have also consulted outside counsel who have all come to the same conclusion that we did, and that is that the proposed trip fees to be paid when rideshare vehicles pick up or drop off passengers at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport are not unconstitutional under Article 9, Section 25 of the Arizona Constitution. The trip fees are a charge for the use of specific public property, the roadway system at the airport, for commercial activity. The Constitution does not bar municipalities from charging a fee to access and use municipal-owned property. Many companies, from ground transportation to concessions, pay fees to conduct commercial business that provides services to customers at the airport. None of these fees for use of airport property is a tax, and all of these fees are constitutional.
Thank you. Councilman Nowakowski.
So, Mr. Bennett, if somebody wanted to take Lyft or Uber and be dropped off at the SkyTrain parking lot, would it be any extra fees for those individuals?
Mayor to Councilman Nowakowski, thank you very much for that question. The proposal that is in front of the council today provides that if people want to use Uber and Lyft to drop off at the SkyTrain station, the current 44th Street station, or the future 24th Street station at 24th and Buckeye, that they would receive a 30% reduction in the fee that is in front of you today. So it would drop that fee down to roughly $2.80.
Okay. And then, Mayor, the other thing I heard, I'm not sure if it was right or not, but that the drivers were getting 22 cents a mile? Is that what I heard from?
That's Lyft.
That's Lyft, right?
As low as 22 cents a mile.
Okay.
It's absurd.
So that's some of the complaints that we were hearing, like Councilmember Garcia said, you all need to go and organize yourselves to make sure you get a fair wage. And that's the problem we have here, is that these jobs are going for poor individuals that aren't getting paid a fair salary. And now they're trying to condemn the city of Phoenix for being fair. We want to treat everyone fairly. We're going to treat the taxi drivers. If you happen to be a limousine driver, or if you happen to be a Lyft or Uber driver, we're going to treat you all the same. So, Mayor, I'm going to be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. It is important that we make sure our drivers have the ability to live in this community as well. They deserve a living wage. With that, we are ready for a roll call.
DeCiccio?
Nope.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski? Yes. Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Yes. Waring?
Oh, almost got you.
Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. The item passes 7-2. This was a strong vote that the City of Phoenix is going to invest in Sky Harbor. We are going to take a 2-minute break while people leave the council chambers. Welcome you back to our December 18th City Council meeting. We next move to item 48, audio-video equipment and services.
That is fine. I can move approval.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia? Nowakowski? Pastor? Stark? Waring? Williams? Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
8-1.
Item passes 8-1. We next move to item 50, issuance of obligations to finance public transit projects.
Yes, we have a motion for item number 50.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Leonard Clark.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, and thank you for serving as our leaders. And I know even though I have differences with you, I have watched you personally. You're very conscientious in what you do. So thank you, despite all the rhetoric and all that. Anyways, right now I'm residing in El Mirage. Don't worry, I'm going to find a way back to Phoenix. But for right now, what I'm concerned about is we have a wonderful transportation system. It can always have improvement, and you're doing this bonding issue. Is there any way you could extend, try to look into it, and I'll try to check in with the City Council and Mayor of El Mirage to have a bus besides the Glendale Avenue bus and the Express, because it doesn't go all the way out there, so people are locked in. They can't get to the beautiful city of Phoenix to contribute to our business community, and we, vice versa, can't get out to El Mirage. It just seems everything's going so fast, but there's no public transportation. I know this is our city. We can't help everybody, but I'm just hoping when you do these bonds and then you consider in the future, please try to find a way to get something farther out into El Mirage, because the people there, a lot of people want to come to Phoenix but can't afford to do it. So thank you very much, and I do approve of this bonding. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio?
No.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski? Yes. Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Yes. Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Item passes 7-2. We next move to item 53, to amend the city code related to cable television license fees. Will our city clerk please read the title?
Item 53 is for ordinance G6652, an ordinance amending Chapter 5, License Fees, Cable Television Licenses, Section 5-20 of the Phoenix City Code.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes, we have a motion to approve item 53.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments?
Mayor.
Councilman
Thank
Waring.
you. A quick question, probably for just Ed or Chris. This is to comply with state law.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, that is correct. This is conforming with state law.
Thank you.
As a follow-up, this is a fee and not a tax.
Well said.
Sorry.
Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski? Yes. Pastor?
Yes.
Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Item passes unanimously. We next move to item 57, the election funding disclosure dark money ordinance. Will the city clerk please read the title?
Item 57 is for ordinance G6617, an ordinance amending Chapter 12, Article 7 of the Phoenix City Code by revising Division 2 on campaign finance and adding a new Division 3 relating to election funding disclosure obligations.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve item 57.
Second.
And that's second. Oh, she beat me.
Second from both Councilwoman Williams and Councilwoman Stark, who helped get this started.
Mayor?
Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I just want to thank you. I know that when you were a councilwoman, this is one of the things that you wanted to make sure that the city of Phoenix was transparent, especially when it came to dark money in our local elections. So I want to thank you, and I'm glad that we're able to vote on it now.
Thank you so much. Mr. Leonard Clark.
Thank you so much, Mayor and City Council members. Now, this is just the beginning. If we can find a way so that our citizenry
can be up to date on what's going on. This dark money is everywhere in the city of Phoenix. Our citizens go on YouTube, they're told the earth is flat, they're told 2 + 2 is 5. So we really need this. I strongly applaud you. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, say who you are. Don't hide behind this nonsensical new ruling where you can hide your identity, nonprofit. Thank you so much. We need open transparency so the citizens of Phoenix know who are really backing these things that come up before us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. 85% of our voters voted in favor of this disclosure, and it's exciting that we are moving it forward. Any comments? Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your leadership on this. We just won't agree on it, if that's all right. So several years ago, back in 2013, I had dark money pour in against me. We had it was the most ever spent in the city of Phoenix. It was $1.1 million spent on a city council race. They flyered my neighborhood. Because I don't know who they are, they put my wife on TV. My wife, who does that? I mean, they don't do that even in some of these really, we consider backward nations. They never go after someone's family. They did all these things. It was a horrible time. But at the same time, I believe that they have a right to do that. People have a right to say what they want to say. They have a right to do it anonymously. They have a right to do those things. Did I like it? No. Was I upset about it? Yes. Was it a horrible time for my family and myself? It was a miserable time. And they drove their point. But at the same time, they have a right to do that. It comes down to speech. It comes down to whether or not speeches should be controlled. It really comes down to whether speech should be ugly or not. It is ugly. I mean, it just is. And there are people going to be disagreeing even in this room today, and it could be some of the worst and ugliest things that we know. But at the same time, it's supposed to be free. And people should have a right to be able to do what it is that they want to say. And as long as they don't threaten for life, but they didn't do that. They went after us, called me every name in the book, from corrupt to everything else, put my wife on TV. It was just a horrible thing. But at the same time, speech is ugly. And speech is not always something that is pleasant. And that is why our country is so great, is because we don't try to regulate other people's speech. And anonymous speech is free. It should be free. And people should have a right to do what they want, whether it's labor groups, business groups, whatever. I mean, I don't like it, but at the same time, they have a right, I believe, constitutionally. And so I'm going to be voting no on this, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. This ordinance allows people to say what they would like to say, but everyone has to put their name on it. Right now, someone giving $50 has to report, and this is saying a large nonprofit also has to report. Research has shown that when people put their money on it, they're more likely to be accurate, and there's more accountability in elections. So I look forward to supporting this motion. Roll call. Councilwoman Pastor.
So I am a little conflicted in a way, because I think Sal is correct in the sense that everybody has a right. However, it very much reminds me of email or social media and people going back and forth, willing to attack on social media, but yet when they're in person and you're right in front of that person, they're not willing to speak the truth at that moment. And so I always feel everybody has to operate with ethics and integrity and be able to speak the truth. And I think that's one of the dynamics that has happened in social media. And I relate this, the reason why I'm talking about this, because I relate this to dark money. If you're willing to put your money down, then you should be willing to be able to have your name right by where as much money as you put down. And I look at that as just being fair, and everybody knows who's playing in the field. So I'm very much supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Yes. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes 7-2. And again, thank you to Councilwoman Stark for her help on this. We next move to item 63, taser requirements contract. We have a motion.
Yes, we have a motion to approve item 63.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have one card from Leonard Clark. Thank you. Any council member comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Stark. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Guardado.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes. Item passes unanimously. We next move to the planning and zoning portion of our agenda. Item 87 is a public hearing on infrastructure financing plan for impact fees. We will welcome our Planning and Development Director up for a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Item 87 is just to open for a public hearing regarding our draft infrastructure financing plan. This is a plan that, pursuant to state law, will be our 2020 update that complies with our requirements to update our impact fee program. Impact fees are collected in new developing areas and help pay for certain public facilities and equipment that are needed to expand city services to meet the needs of new development. We have impact fees in 9 categories: fire protection, police, parks, libraries, major arterial, storm drainage, water, wastewater, and water resource acquisition. The impact fee state statute requires that city review and update the impact fees every 5 years. This is the process that we are going through. This is the second public hearing on this item. There has been significant stakeholder input and working on these issues. We do not have any current issues with these proposals. We've made the revised revisions. The next step would be to come back in January, and we will then ask the council to approve the fees. This is just a public hearing to take any additional public comments. And with that, staff is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm supportive of this. I know it sounds, but development should pay its own way. Developers, if they come and develop, they need to be able to pay their own way and put in the infrastructure for their own project, but not any more than that. I mean, it needs to be proportional, but at the end of the day, the impact fees are designed to do that. I just don't think that they're high enough in my area, believe it or not. My understanding is that the impact fee in one of my areas is about $7,500. It's going to be from $6,400 to about $7,500. I just, knowing the amount of growth that we have out there, the impact that we need to have, the roads that need to be put in, Alan, I just think we ought to be looking at this again and maybe increase that a bit to be able to make sure that it's as close to full recovery as possible with some of the lands that are still out there. So from my perspective, I think you've done an exemplary job, and I think the City of Phoenix has created a really good model of developers paying their own way, but it may not be enough in some of these areas, and in particular mine. So something I'd like you to reevaluate as it comes forward, and I'm sorry to blindside you on that. I probably should have talked to you a little bit earlier about it, but I was reevaluating some of these fees, and I don't think there's a full or as close to a full cost recovery when it comes to that, and agreed. So I'm getting some head shaking that yes. So I'd really like you to take a look. At least, I mean, I'm not going to ask this of anybody else, but at least in my area, I'd like you to take a look at that, and I'd like to get as close to full recovery as possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. First off, good work, Alan, because I have not gotten one call from stakeholders, so you must have fully vetted the process, and I do appreciate that. I do, as a follow-up to Councilman DeCiccio, I do agree development should pay for itself and pay its fair share. The problem is have we already posted the fees? So if you were to reevaluate, would it be too late?
Mayor Gallego, Councilwoman Stark, we have advertised and posted this new draft plan. That's the requirement under state statute. There was a draft plan that we came to the council with in September. We advertised that draft plan, took public comment. There was a 60-day public comment over the summer prior to that. We made some changes when the council approved it in October, which basically was approval under state law to say we're done with the initial public gathering process, and now we're in the final stages of advertise the fees, and then that is what's here for one final public hearing before the adoption in January. So it would delay the implementation of the fees if we were to go back and have significant discussion or changes. We're happy to sit down with Councilman DeCiccio and explain it. I think part of the challenge, in his district is that impact fees only apply in new land area, and so within, Ahwatukee foothills, for example, the South Mountain 620 is really the only vacant land where the fees apply, and so when you update your fees, you're looking at what's going to happen, in that area, and what's the infrastructure that's needed to be paid for. And because those are largely built-out areas, there's not a significant amount that we could legally charge for under state law because there's not a lot of new development that's happening in that particular impact fee area, which is Ahwatukee foothills.
Okay, thank you. And I do appreciate, Councilman DeCiccio, that you're looking out for Ahwatukee since my daughter lives down there now. Thank you.
Well,
But, I mean, if in fact, and I don't mind going back and evaluating it, it will extend the time limit. I'm just trying to understand if we did it.
Yeah. Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, we can go back and certainly have a discussion with Councilman DeCiccio and talk about it, and any else of you who would like to, but if there were going to make substantial changes, then that would delay the implementation of it. And as it sits now under state statute, if the council approves it at the end of January, it still is 75 days before that new fee would take effect, because that's the way the state law requires.
Mayor?
Councilman Nowakowski.
I'm
okay.
Okay. Councilman DeCiccio.
Thank you, Mayor. So what ends up happening is if you don't do this in my district or my area, all of you end up subsidizing it. So, I mean, really, that's the end of the day, and I can't be up here talking about one thing and then doing something else either. So I think the level of equity is just not right here. And it's not because of anything you've done, and Alan, I swear to you, I should have done this earlier with you, and I apologize. That's my fault. You've done an incredible job. But is there a way for us to pull out my area and do an evaluation on that? I just don't think that the rest of this council should be subsidizing my area. Don't believe it. Is there a way for us to pull past everybody else's if they want to do that, and then just pull mine out and do a reevaluation? Because I'd like to get us as close to cost recovery as possible. And why not, if I'm up here preaching that we should be doing certain things, I should be doing this to myself as well and to my area. It's just not fair for the rest, including the northern part of my district, to be subsidizing the south either. Because we're going to end up having to put in those police stations, those fire stations, and there's just not going to be enough money to do those things with the amount of impact fees that are here today. So that's where I'm going.
Before you answer, Alan, throw in District 1, LaSalle's.
Yeah.
Because it's grossly
Yeah.
undervalued.
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, Councilwoman Williams, this item is not on for action by the council today. It's on only for a public hearing. The action item associated this would be in January as currently scheduled. What I would propose is to come meet with you and talk about it specifically about what we can do, what we can charge, because it is closely regulated by state law. And we are charging the maximum extent that we can under state law, for these various categories. And so we're happy to come and explain that and work with you guys. And if we need to then adjust, that's something that we will, when it comes to January's council meeting, when we're on for action, then we can talk about that. Because right now we're not on for any action to pull some pieces out or not do anything else. This is a public hearing to get comments, and then we'll figure out where we could go for January.
Mayor? Oh, Apologize. And thank you for that, Alan. But if there is a way to do the reevaluation either on mine or Councilwoman Williams' area as well, I think that's the right thing to do. Again, what ends up happening is if we don't collect enough fees in one area that gets, the substations, the fire stations and all that, then what ends up happening is the other, like in my district, I've got a completely bifurcated district where you've got a north and a south. Your individuals that live on one side of the area end up subsidizing the other, and it just becomes inequitable. And so from my perspective is we really need to look at, and again, I'm not going to tell anyone to do anything in theirs, and I appreciate Councilwoman Williams looking at hers too, to do something that they don't want to do. I'm just saying I would like to bring a more equitable look at how we finance this and how development should be paying for itself and developers should be paying for their own way. So from my end, I still think that that fee is really low from what's planned to go in that 620, or now it's about 400 acres, I think it is. So I'd like us to do that. So I'd like to bring in a number that's closer to what the real cost is going to be able to subsidize some of those other projects that we have out there. Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be done with that.
Thank you, Councilman. With that, I will close the public hearing. As our planning director mentioned, there is not going to be a vote today, so we will move on to item 88, which is an item in Councilman Waring's district.
Mayor,
Brief staff report.
Members of council, item 88 is a general plan amendment to the street classification map. It is for an area that is the northeast corner of 56th Street and Deer Valley Drive. This general plan amendment seeks to move a portion of a minor collector street within that superblock area, and that is to address some second phase planning that's happening because D.R. Horton has purchased a portion of that parcel. Staff does recommend approval of that. This is the area in question, and you see this red dotted line is what exists today as a minor collector, and D.R. Horton is going to be developing this area. The proposal is to change that configuration where it shows collector A around to go move it over to the east a little bit, and then Ranger Drive will continue all the way through. The need in this particular area is to ensure that there is a open minor collector street between Deer Valley Drive and Pinnacle Peak Road. That's Ranger Drive right here that goes through the existing parts of the development and will continue on in this fashion to the east, and then ultimately over into the Paradise Ridge area. And so this is something that is necessary to accommodate development and at the same time preserve the additional traffic network opportunities within this part of the Desert View Village. It was approved by the Desert View Village Planning Committee by a 9-0 vote, and the Planning Commission by an 8-0 vote as well. With that, staff is happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you. I will open our public hearing. We do not have any cards from the public. Do we have any? We will close the public hearing, and I will turn it to Councilman Jim Waring for comments or a motion. And Councilman Waring approved.
Mayor, in this particular case, it's a resolution because it's a general plan amendment. Okay. Apologize, sorry.
That's all right. Would you like me to say it again, Alan? Motion to approve per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related resolution again.
And we have
more fun the second.
a motion and a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor? Stark?
Yes.
Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. Passes unanimously. We next move to item 90, which is an item in Councilman Nowakowski's district. Shall we begin with a staff report?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Item 90 is a public hearing appeal for abandonment of right-of-way that is for an alley between the northwest corner of First Avenue and McKinley Street. The map shows the area in yellow right here that is the subject of the proposed abandonment. In this particular case, shows the adjoining parcels right here. True North Development is proposing to redevelop this, and the alley abandonment would accommodate them building over the top of the alley, as you'll see. This is the picture looking down the alley and what you see today there. The applicant's request is obviously to abandon that and preserve a utility easement and public access through that alley. So it would look like an alley for the most part and function to still allow for public access today as it's used. It would just be privately maintained and owned with those public access easements and utility easements to allow for trash pickup, the utilities to go down there, and for residents and other property owners who use the alley to continue to have access through that alley. This shows the proposed redevelopment. The McKinley Club parcel is right here. That is being proposed to be preserved with a 30-year perpetual conservation easement as part of this particular project, and then building over the top of this with the proposed mixed-use development and around. Here's the massing for the particular project. And this is a rendering of what it would look like looking up that alley from that same view that we showed a few minutes ago, where you would build over the top of it, but this would still function as a utility corridor that public utilities could go down, as well as the public having access. It would just be owned and maintained by True North and its development interests. Here's another rendering of the side of it. Staff does recommend approval of this per the abandonment hearing officer's decision with some additional stipulations that came out because the applicant had been working with the Roosevelt Action Association to address principally the frontage along 2nd Avenue and the improvements that were done with that to ensure that the residential that wraps around that is significantly improved and looks better along 2nd Avenue than the original proposal. With that, staff's happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicant and Mr. Bill Scheel, on behalf of the Roosevelt Action Association, are here with some quick statements, but they're in support of this project pursuant to the stipulations in the memo from today.
Thank you. We will go ahead and open the public hearing. We have only one card wishing to speak, which is marked in favor from Bill Scheel.
Thank you, Bill Scheel, 301 West Linwood Street, representing Roosevelt Action Association. We strongly support the city's policy of not abandoning alleys. We feel these cases have to be very much scrutinized on a case-by-case level, and we appreciate the opportunity we had in this situation to interact with the developer to improve this development. Our mission was to protect the historic streetscape along 2nd Avenue. We appreciate the efforts of Shepley Bullfinch, the architect, to work with us to make those improvements. We also, on behalf of our commitment to historic preservation, very much applaud the preservation of the McKinley Club and look forward to having that developed into productive part of the project. And so thank you very much for considering that. And with the, we very much request that you approve the additional stipulations that have been suggested today.
Thank you. Nick Wood on behalf of the applicant.
Mayor, members of the council, Nick Woodsnow, 101 Arizona Center, and we represent True North Studios. We spent quite a bit of time with Mr. Scheel and with Andy Abkarian. I want to thank them for all of the time that they spent. I get paid to do that. They don't. But as usual, we spent a lot of time with them working on design and design solutions, which typically is the way that we solve these problems. So I want to thank Bill, I want to thank Andy and staff's help as well, and we respectfully request that you sustain the approval by the hearing officer and subject to the new stipulations that we've added. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 cards in favor, not wishing to speak, and 6 cards opposed, not wishing to speak. I will close the public hearing and turn to Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, first of all, I just really want to thank our staff and also True North and the Roosevelt Action for coming together and working things out. With that, Mayor, motion to approve per the abandonment hearing officer's recommendation, subject to the stipulations of the memo from our Planning and Development Director dated December 18th, which is today.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Councilwoman Pastor.
I'm just glad that, to hear that the McKinley is being saved. That was my number one question and probably priority when I was being briefed. It's such a beautiful building, and to preserve it, I just love that space. But thank you for doing that, and thank you for both Bill and Nick and the collective working out the stipulations, because that was the other question I had yesterday, and I was happy to hear from Alan late this afternoon that it had gotten worked out, so appreciate it.
Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Waring? Williams?
Yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes.
Woo-hoo,
Passes unanimously.
nine. Woo. Wary was there.
We next move to item 91, photo enforcement. Mayor. Councilwoman Stark.
If I could just cut to the chase and maybe make a motion. And I realized at subcommittee, they came up with a motion to bifurcate the action, and I appreciate that because I know the enforcement at the schools are really, really important, and I want to make sure we're taking care of our school children. But I am still concerned about red light enforcement. I think we have the reputation of being the red light running capital of the United States, and we have the most fatalities because of red light running. And I know there was some concern with the company that we use now, and I wasn't here when we voted on it, but my fear is if we don't continue that contract, we're going to increase the problems for both police and for fire. I know that they arrive at the scenes of these accidents. Sometimes they are fatalities. And it just troubles me that we need that tool to help protect. I really see it as a way to deter accidents. I have lived up for 30 years in the area around 7th Street and Bell. And 7th Street and Bell actually does have red light enforcement. And I will tell you, probably 25 years ago, Bell Road, 7th Street was one of the most dangerous intersections in the city. And I know that through streets and the police, they've done a marvelous job of making that a much safer intersection. And it still really carries a lot of traffic, I think 40,000 vehicles a day. I really just want to plead, this is just a month-to-month contract, and I know we have an RFP out. I think we can work together as a council to make sure we have the best RFP so that we can ensure we have the best company for red lights. But I'd like to make a motion that supports both the red light and the school and the school speeds vans. And again, if it fails, I will support any substitute motion because I don't want anything to happen to our school districts. When we didn't pass it last time, I heard from a couple school districts. And so I just care about lives. And it just scares me that we don't have this tool and we don't have enough police officers right now to do traffic enforcement. I know when we had the recession, we lost our motors. And so we have a lot of problems out there on the streets with regards to speeding and red light running. So I'd like to, again, make a motion to accept both.
I will second it because I truly believe that we need both. And this is an extension. I think the safety of our entire community and the number of intersection crashes is known nationwide, very poor record, and I know they truly have made a difference in the few places we have, but actually I'd like to see us in the future double the number of red light cameras. So, okay.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for your advocacy for a safer Phoenix. We have 9 cards, all marked in favor, wishing to address the council. We'll begin with PJ Dean, followed by Deborah Grossman.
Mayor.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I'd like to make a secondary motion that we go with the subcommittee's recommendation of having the school areas with the vans, and that we look into the future of coming up with some kind of a rhyme and reason why we have the cameras where they're at.
Thank you, Councilman. And you said by secondary you meant substitute.
Substitute motion, right?
I have a couple of questions of staff.
Okay, then I apologize, Mr. Dean. Would you mind?
At subcommittee meeting, there was a question whether they would split the contract. And so we asked Denise to research that, so I want to know what if they split it? Are there additional costs? How much? And where's the money come from?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Williams. We did reach out to Redflex as directed by the subcommittee, and Redflex has agreed to extend the contract just for the mobile units. They do want to increase the price 10% to the city. That's City of Phoenix only cost. And they also want to have a mutual agreement on any extensions that go past the 4-month extension.
Thank you. And where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
So, Mayor, members of the council, the money does come from the program and from the general fund.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Mr. Deaton.
Thank you. Mayor Gallego, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is P.J. Dean, and I'm a captain with 25 years of service with the Phoenix Fire Department. I'm also the secretary of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association, which represents nearly 2,800 sworn firefighters in Phoenix and nearly 5 other agencies across the valley. It's my honor today to stand before you in representation of our membership and also to join our brother and sister first responders of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association in advocacy of making our city a safer one in regards to traffic injuries and fatalities. Arizona currently ranks highest in the nation for the amount of deadly red light accidents. As the largest city in Arizona, Phoenix is naturally at the epicenter of this problem. As the first responders who must deal firsthand with the injuries, death, and suffering that result from these incidents, we implore the mayor and council to take action today that will help continue to manage the issue and not exacerbate it. An Insurance Institute for Highway Safety study found that red light enforcement cameras have proven to reduce red light running crashes by 21% in large cities. Despite this, Phoenix only currently has 12 intersections protected by these devices. Of greater concern is the fact that what few cameras we currently have now stand to be removed completely with the expiration of this current lease. It is difficult to understand how we can, with a clean conscience, make a decision that has the potential to actually make our intersections more dangerous than they already are. We can appreciate the fact that there are several arguments against red light cameras that revolve around civil liberties. With all due respect to those who feel that way, we feel the safety of our citizens must be our primary focus and greatest concern. From the perspective of the men and women who on a daily basis extricate our citizens from mangled vehicles and become party to all the human suffering that arise from these kinds of accidents, we encourage our city leadership to stick with the red light camera program and continue to do all we can to reduce these tragic incidents. One crash, one injury, one death is one too many. Please vote to keep our red light cameras in place so that we can continue our progress of making the city streets of Phoenix safer ones. Thank you for your time.
Mayor, I have a question for
Yes,
Councilman Nowakowski.
Thank you, Mayor. So I understand the rhyme and reason why we create different areas for fire stations. You have this triangle approach where there's a certain time to get to that individual that needs your help. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
So there's not a rhyme and reason for these red cameras, and that's one of the reasons why we're asking these questions to our staff. So I just want to put on the record that it's not that we don't support it. We just want to understand why they're in the locations that they're in. Does it make sense? Are they in the most dangerous intersections? And is it going to reduce accidents, special fatalities in our city? So that's what we're asking for. It's not that we don't support it. We just want to make sure that we understand the reasoning why that intersection and not another.
Mayor Gallego, Councilman Nowakowski, we would as well support any efforts that would make these more effective. We simply support their presence because they are proven to make our streets safer, and that's what we're primarily concerned with.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any additional questions for Mr. Dean? Thank you. And I do have I guess when we get staff to address Councilman Nowakowski's question, why do we put the cameras where we do?
Mayor, members of the council,
The red light cameras has gone back to at least 2000, 2002 timeframe. So it's been a long history of where those locations have been. What we've been able to determine that's kind of been consistency. There's some things that we haven't been able to determine out, but when we found it's consistent is that we have had consistent coordination between street transportation and the police department on looking at where we had crashes, intersection crashes throughout the city. And so when we looked at those 12 locations, we looked at the current locations that were installed in 2015. There's 9 of the 12 cameras were located there in 2015. We found that we had 2012 to 2014 crash data that we're looking out throughout the city. And I will tell you, one of the things we found throughout that's been consistent through the program as well is that those red light cameras, we did have at least one in each council district. That's something that's been consistent that we saw through talking, looking through some of our documentation, but also talking to some of the retirees and people who are no longer here who've been part of this program in the past. And well, I can tell you that not every single camera that's in the location right now was the highest crash location. They were on the list of our highest crash locations within each one of the council districts. And so the 12 cameras, as they stand right now, we do have data that shows that they have reduced collisions within the last 3 years, and especially when it comes to serious injuries and fatalities, that there are no serious injuries and fatalities at those 3 locations in the direction that the cameras are monitoring. So, like I said, I would agree with Councilman Nowakowski that I think looking forward, we could definitely do a better job in how we locate these cameras and making sure we're updating and looking at current crash data and working closer with not just the police department but also with the city council and be able to coordinate on those looking forward in the cameras, especially with the new request for proposal that's out on the streets right now.
Wonderful.
Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Nowakowski.
So, Mayor, during our Public Safety Subcommittee, there was a memo from the Streets Department to Sal DeCiccio back in December 6th, basically stating the 10 intersections with the highest number of serious injuries and fatalities, right? So all 10 of them, I named them off during our subcommittee meeting, and not one has a red camera on there. So if these are the 10 hot spots where we should be preventing injuries and fatal collisions, why don't we have one of these cameras in those intersections? I don't understand that. I understand why we put the fire stations where we do, but I don't understand where we can have 27th Avenue in Beardsley, that's in District 1, it had 13 collisions that it doesn't have one there. 43rd Avenue in Northern, which is the second highest, which is in District 1 and 5, doesn't have one. The third highest is 51st and Thunderbird in District 1, doesn't have one. 27th Avenue in Camelback, which is in District 4 and 5, doesn't have one. 15th Avenue in Indian School in District 4 doesn't have one. 16th Street and Broadway, which is in District 8, doesn't have one. Cave Creek and Greenway in District 2 and 3 doesn't have one. 67th and Thomas, that's in my district, doesn't have one. 43rd Avenue in McDowell, that's in Council District 4, doesn't have one. And 40th Avenue and Peoria, 43rd Avenue in Peoria in District 1, doesn't have one. So I don't understand that if we're placing these cameras to save lives, wouldn't you want to focus on the top 10 areas in our city with the most accidents and fatalities? And that's where I'm trying to figure this out. And that's, as the chair of the Public Safety Subcommittee, I want to make sure we're the best. We're good stewards, especially when it comes to spending tax dollars and saving lives and preventing accidents. So those are some of the concerns I have, Mayor, and that's why we were questioning why the cameras were placed in the places they were. And what we found out is we created a little map where basically this came out of District 6, and it shows that twice as many cameras are in the minority, low-income areas. It doesn't make sense, and not in the top 10 areas where there's accidents. So I'm not sure what the rhyme and reason is, and that's what I'm trying to get to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Staff.
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, One thing is, I know the data that we use to produce the top 10 list currently is based on our crash data from 2016 to 2018. So the 12 camera locations that we had previously were looking back at 2012 to 2014 crash data. I would agree that where we have the 12 camera locations today are not our 10 highest crash locations. And I think that's one thing that has been consistent when we've talked to some council members, but also I think some of the, in your subcommittee earlier, I think last spring, was talking about potentially increasing the red light cameras to address that. I know in the current contract from reviewing the scope of work, if a camera location is moved within 5 years of its installation, the city bears the cost to install that, relocate that camera, install that camera. So I believe that's about $30,000 per location to install those cameras. But I agree that we would want to, as I was talking before, is looking forward in the future with a request for proposal to look at opportunities to be able to look at our highest 10 crash locations and being able to potentially install additional cameras at those locations.
And just a correction, it was 2014 to 2018, the statistics that we have here.
Thank you. And we put the cameras in before that. So they were on the top 10 list when we put them in, or they were on the top list per each council district of crashes.
The second part.
Excuse me, but Councilman Nowakowski asked me to mention one other thing that we did on the research. There were 3 accidents out of all 12 that we considered to be serious out of all 12 prior to that.
So they're working.
Well, no, prior to.
Mayor, Councilman.
The bottom line, they can't answer why they were put where they were. They really can't. There's no, you should be able to look back and say, we did it for this reason in this location.
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, I believe from what we've been able to determine that we did look at the crashes at the intersections, but as far as the type of crashes, serious injury, fatality, I can't determine whether that was used in the locating the cameras, the 12 cameras where they're currently right now. I say going forward, if we're looking at additional camera locations, that is definitely something we would want to have discussion with because that is important. We want to reduce serious injury and fatalities, not just accidents at intersections.
So the point that Councilman Nowakowski and others are making too is the location of these and where they're located and who they're targeting, because that's who they're targeting. If you're ended up with just 3 out of 12, I mean 3 accidents out of 12 prior to the signals being put in there, there's a problem. So the question I would have is, how much influence did Redflex have in determining these locations? Well, you weren't here, Keeney. You probably don't know. Do you know anything about that?
Mayor, Councilman DeCiccio, no, I don't have any knowledge about it. I do know that when we were looking at some of the high crash locations, what I've been able to determine is sometimes we weren't able to put them at the high crash locations, the highest crash locations, because we might have right-of-way conflicts, we might have other obstructions that might have kept us from being able to put it at that location. But I can't say for certain whether or not what you're supposing is true or not. So
what you're saying is you don't know, and that's
correct.
I guess that's fair. But at the end of the day, you know, and I'll tell you, I've got an issue too with the way this has been brought up here too. But that's another issue. We'll deal with the city manager separately on that. But the way this thing was done was very disrespectful to the council. It's voted twice on this thing. And plus, to say that, you know, some will support the mobile cameras for schools, the way this thing has been contrived up here, there's no way to vote on it that way. I don't see either one of these proposals passing, quite frankly. And to be able to say I'd support it in the schools, it's impossible to be done the way that the motion was done. It's impossible to do that. So unless you're willing to add that and say only mobile, only if you end up failing on yours, Councilman Stark. So at the end of the day, the way this is put together, the way it was contrived, the way it was put in, it obviously looks like it's targeting specific areas of our community that are lower income, that can't afford to pay for these things, because people with higher incomes are going to fight some of them. The people that are at the lower level that cannot afford this, that work every day, are not going to be able to do that, and there's no justification for the location of where these cameras were put in. So a lot of what's occurring here is an internal struggle of, you know, we don't believe that some of the things that staff is presenting to us to be accurate. And that's what you're seeing here. Keeney, it's not your responsibility. You weren't here at the time. So, I mean, you're an amazing director, and I've mentioned that to the city manager before. But the way this has been put together, the way it's been brought up again today, is meant to embarrass some members of the council when, in fact, we have the facts behind us. We have the facts that show that this is wrong. it was done improperly, and that is what this is, at the end of the day, is going to be about. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Williams.
Mayor, Councilman Nowakowski, what was your motion?
Schools only.
School zone only. You're separating the two contracts per finance officer's
And basically
direction.
coming up, we have an RFP coming up in the near future that we make sure that there's a rhyme and reason for placing those cameras where we place them.
So perhaps we could ask the mayor to do some type of a workshop or something so that we thoroughly understand. I mean, I have been lobbying for a year or two for additional red light cameras.
Oh, me too, yeah.
And I didn't realize the two were connected. I fully support keeping those in the school zones. I think it is critical because there are too many cars, it is too dangerous. I don't like it, but I'll support your motion.
Thank you.
And I would be happy to schedule a work study session so we can really make sure we have the best practices and our policies.
Mayor.
Councilwoman Stark.
Yeah, and I certainly would support that too, because we have to consider our school zones. But going back to the current locations, you said it's 30,000 if we were to move them? Because
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, yes, that's what the cost is to move or to install new ones.
well, I sure would support spending 30,000 and getting them to the right intersections if we need to, because I think a life is worth a lot more than 30,000.
Councilwoman Pastor.
I heard the methodology on how the lights were placed. I do know that in Toronto, they have 125 red lights, cameras, and accidents have gone down 60%. There is data, depending on how you look at it, out there demonstrating that the red lights are effective. The other dynamic is that we need safety in our roads. I have the highest pedestrian fatalities in District 4. I probably have the highest, and I'll ask for the data, of red lights, of people running red lights. There has to be a way they calculate maybe by the accidents. But I do feel it's a safety dynamic that we need out in our streets. We are still hiring police officers. We are still needing a different dynamic or system to help our police officers and protect our citizens. My question is, Denise, is in separating this contract's for, I believe, 325, I think I read it correctly. Or we're going to add additional funds of 325,000?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. What we're doing here is we're asking for payment authority, Councilwoman Pastor. So this is payment authority for the contract. So the 325,000 is additional payment authority we would need to extend the contract for 4 months, and that is only for the mobile units for speed enforcement.
So you're asking for additional 325,000 just for the school enforcement?
Correct, for the extension period.
For the extension for 4 months.
Let's make clear, because
I want it, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a difference between having to add money to the budget and having to add money to a contract.
Correct.
There is money in the budget,
Correct.
but there's not, the contract authority doesn't exist. So that's the difference. We're not asking to add money in the budget. I'll look to the budget director on that.
Correct. The contract is, Mayor, members of the council, the contract is currently budgeted. There is a financial impact, as we've discussed, though, of going to speed only. So again, we would basically, right now as it's set up, the existing contract, about 60% of the total revenue comes in via the fixed cameras, and about 40% of the revenue comes in via the speed vans. And so when you look at all the impact of going to one only, we're estimating that for the duration, the last 6 months of the fiscal year, that there will be an impact to the general fund of about $140,000 for the year.
That's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know how much of an impact it would be. And that's in addition to what we already, we would have school enforcement and red lights. No. What I'm saying is with red lights and school enforcement vans, once we separate it out, there will be additional dollars added to this because of the cost.
There will be an impact to the general fund budget of about $140,000 by going to just speed only. We're not adding more money to the budget because I can't do that. My appropriation is my appropriation.
Right.
We will just be swallowing and trying to absorb the $140,000 impact of having lost revenue for the program.
Okay.
As currently constituted, the program is fairly self-contained. The revenue that comes in pays the vendor and pays all the ancillary costs that the staff incur.
Okay. So I understand the dynamic in the sense of the red lights, and why it's not where the top 10 areas, why were they placed, and there's a whole methodology to it. What I don't understand from my colleagues is that why would we just not extend it, go into a study session and understand in the study session further how red lights are chosen, or we build a model in the sense of where we want to place them. And if we have to move the ones currently, then let's do that. So that's where I'm confused. I'm confused as to why we just want to get rid of the red lights, and with the concerns that you have, why don't we look at that and move the red lights, and then as the RFP and the study session comes about, then we can go about and understand how it came about further, and then move to the RFP. So that's my confusion, and I wasn't part of the subcommittee, so I don't know.
Mayor, weren't we told that this needed to be done as of January? And they didn't say to do that. It didn't give us that timing. It was, in fact, they didn't even talk about the schools being part of this contract until I think after the meeting. So I think it's a timing issue more than a money issue. And we didn't know anything about the $30,000 moving fee because I am quite sure I would have supported any time you came and said, oh, there's a better intersection that needs greater help. We need $30,000, even if we took it out of contingency fund. I just think it's that important. I think they serve such a good purpose in this community, trying to keep us safe.
Councilmember Garcia.
So I'm in a different place with this. I fundamentally don't trust red flags or the process in which these cameras were set out. I think this has been profit-driven. I think it's a poor tax. I think we've seen that majority of these cameras are in low-income communities, and we continue to want to fix problems by criminalizing and punishing people. There are other forms and ways in which we could save lives. There's the Hawks that are out there. There's an entire plan that was put forth earlier this year to talk about pedestrian deaths, to talk about ways in which we could take care of each other and save lives. I just don't trust this process, and we've been able to prove that these weren't set or put forth with safety in mind. And we have now, since 2015, taken from Phoenix $5.3 million that we've charged people in fees, and we forced 82,647 people to take a mandatory class. That might be helpful, but we have no influence in how that's conducted, in where that goes. And so for me, I'd prefer to shut this program down and follow the RFP process that's happening so that we can make sure to put in good policy and make sure that we actually decide, either as a council or as a community, whether red lights are actually the thing that are going to save lives, or are they just further criminalizing and punishing particularly low-income people of color by continuing to put them into the criminalization system. And so I would be in support of the school cameras, but I would definitely like to see the red light cameras go away until we can find an equitable process and in a way to put them and accompany them with other policies that too can save lives.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, I also very supportive of having the vans at our schools. I believe that we must continue to pursue multiple solutions to ensure the safety of our city streets. I strongly support the efforts to improve pedestrian safety, especially for our children. As a mom of two, that's incredibly important to me. I participated in this year's International Walk to School events, and I want our children to be safe every day. It is exactly because I support safe streets for our kids that I support the mobile photo speed enforcement vans that the city deploys to our near schools. And after almost 10 years with red light cameras in our city, I think it's time to look at ways to improve the current RFP to improve the safety. I believe that we need to take a step back and think about the most effective ways to create safer streets, whether that involves making traffic lights more visible, improving intersections, or retiming traffic signals. I think that we need to take a harder look at what we can do as a city. And as other folks have mentioned, looking at the numbers, looking at the intersections that have the most accidents and figuring that we do not have red light cameras in those intersections, it's a little troubling to me on how I explain that to my constituents. I definitely support and will be very proactive to trying to figure out where we're placing these cameras and how do we have better solutions for this issue. In the future, I'll be very supportive of the red light cameras, but I believe that we need a fresh start. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman DeCiccio.
I don't think I could say it much better than Councilwoman Guardado and Councilman Garcia. I mean, both he and I really distrust the system, the way that thing has been in place here. But something to think about too, Keeney, I brought up to you, I said, what about the thought of extending the yellow lights? I remember the conversation, you said, no, we're not going to do that. Why not? Why wouldn't we, and if you look at Dayton and Chicago, they extended their yellow lights just by literally, I think, a half a second. By extending those yellow lights, what ended up happening is cars realized they could slow down. They could get it. What's happening now in some of these intersections, and I've seen it because it happened to me before because I didn't want to get a ticket. You come to a crashing stop because those yellow lights are so fast. You literally come to a quick stop, and if someone's right behind you, that's a problem. You've created and put at risk everybody else in your car. So that is a logical, Dayton did this. Chicago did this. They looked at alternatives, and what Councilwoman Guardado is asking for is just look at some alternatives that are out there. We should have everything on the table, and you should be testing these things out in these intersections and seeing if that works and slows it down. I know what you're going to say because we had this conversation. Well, people are going to get used to them being yellow. Yes, but at the same time, those individuals that have time to get through the intersection will be able to do that. They'll be able to do that in a safe way of doing it. So not to look at that tells me we've got a problem. We should be testing that model out to see how it works. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Deborah Grossman. And Deborah will be followed by Jeff Hollums.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jeff Hollums. Deborah Grossman had to leave earlier, unfortunately. But I'm an owner of traffic schools. I own 20 traffic schools in Arizona. We're partnered with the state of Arizona. In addition, we are partnered with Pima Association of Governments, and we offer classes on pedestrian and cycling safety in response to Arizona being #1 in the nation for pedestrian and cyclist fatality deaths. The reason I'm here today is to impress the point upon you that education is also a very important part of traffic safety. If you speak to a traffic safety expert, they'll tell you that it involves engineering, enforcement, and education. And the combination of these things is what's most effective. The red light cameras, interestingly enough, involve all three. It's an improvement in terms of technology for engineering. They have been proven statistically to be effective. So have rumble strips, bot dots, longer on-ramps, signage. Add to that enforcement, and you start to change, with education, people's behavior. And it's because people's attitudes control their behavior. And that's the same whether they're in this meeting or if they're behind the wheel of a car. When we get them, we can try to change those attitudes. If you eliminate the cameras, you also eliminate the opportunity for these folks to learn more about defensive driving and to change their behaviors and to change their attitudes.
Thank you. And would you, did Mr. Robert Grossman leave as well?
He did as well, yes.
Okay.
Mayor, may I ask him a question?
Councilman Nowakowski.
So it is an educational process for myself, because I was finding out that it's mandatory, if you go through a red light, that you take a driver's ed class, right?
Defensive driving class. Now, an operator has an opportunity to either pay the ticket or to take the defensive driving class. We always, of course, encourage a defensive driving class because they'd also then don't pay increased insurance costs. They also don't get the points on their license. A red light violation is 4 points. If someone receives 2 in a year's period of time, they actually would have their license suspended, may have their license suspended.
Now, Assistant Chief, I thought it was mandatory to take, if you go through a red light, that you have to pay the fee and also go through classes, right?
So Mayor Gallego, Councilman Nowakowski, I believe the option is that the person could just pay the ticket and be done with it right there. I don't believe that it's a requirement.
Yes, and I know that because I received a ticket last year. I can let you know. I received a ticket and I could pay for it or I had to go to class.
So what we've been informed is that people have called us saying that their license is suspended and they didn't understand why, because they showed us the proof that they paid for the ticket, but they did not take the mandatory classes. So I'm not sure there's some kind of miscommunication between our courts and with our law enforcement.
Mayor, can I engage in this thing? Because I think I know what it is. Oh.
And what I think we should wait and see, since we have a question on the floor.
This should be something that they should know automatically, but go ahead, Mike.
So Mayor, council members, I apologize. I admit that I don't do a lot of traffic enforcement. I'm trying to educate myself. So what I was just advised by our traffic enforcement cadre that's over here, here's the distinction. If you pay the ticket, you may take the class. If you take the class, then the points go away.
Correct.
That's the distinction.
And we, I think, want our assistant chief to not be out doing red light running. So
No.
thank you.
I didn't answer it completely. Hold on. I'm sorry.
And Councilman Nowakowski has the floor. Are you done, Councilman?
I'm done.
So the way the law is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can pay ahead of time. You still have to take the class. You still could have to take the class. You pay for that. You still have to take the class. You still have to pay the fine. With a red light ticket, if you go and you get basically convicted because you didn't pay for it ahead of time, before that time frame is you're supposed to appear in court, you have to take the class and pay for the fine. You have to do both after the fact. Correct or not?
No, sir.
Well, I just did it. I know. I'm telling you.
Well, there
Tell me what
are
it
two
is.
classes that you can take. When you get a citation for running a red light, the driver has an option of going to defensive driving school, which is a 4-hour class, and the ticket's dismissed and goes away.
Right.
That's it. You're done. You don't have to pay the fine.
And if they choose not to?
If they choose not to, okay, they pay the fine or they want to go to court and they're found responsible, then they have to go to an 8-hour class through motor vehicle department. It has nothing to do with the city or the courts. That is a motor vehicle department requirement
We're saying the same thing.
Basically, yeah.
So if you pay it after the fact, you still have to go to the class, but instead of a 4-hour class, you have to do an 8-hour class.
Correct. That's the motor
For
vehicle
the same
department
ticket.
requires that, yes, sir.
For the same ticket, you still have to pay the fine, the ticket, everything.
Correct, that is
Exactly.
correct.
So we're on the same page.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Garcia.
So in a situation like the one that Councilman Nowakowski spoke of, someone gets a ticket in the mail, they don't see it, someone comes and serves them. Again, it's created a whole industry. The person that serves them maybe says, yes, I gave it to them. And a person could potentially not know that that ticket's out there, because we've had people that it's happened to, and they never paid the ticket. Therefore, when they get pulled over and their license is suspended, then they're mandated to go back and take the class because they never took that initial deal, or they never had the opportunity to take the initial deal because they didn't know. And so I've had similar people that I know that have gone through that process where they actually don't find out that they ever got the red light camera until they went through that. And so just while I have the mic, I think I applaud your education, and it seems like you care, but there's also no regulation to these schools. And so out of the 82,000 people we sent to traffic school last year, some could have came to you and you could be a great teacher, but the others could have just gone online and clicked away, or they could have gone to someone that didn't care and just sent them home. And so that's another issue that I have, is that we've created this whole industry, both of traffic schools, the people that go give deliver the tickets and so forth, that are not accountable, or there's no policy to make sure that they're doing their job correctly. That's in our hands.
Councilman Garcia, if I could just respond to your commentary. The Arizona Supreme Court does, through the Office of the Supreme Court, AOC, does have specifically required curriculum. So they set a curriculum that has to be standardized and the same throughout all traffic schools. We submit for approval on a biannual basis our curriculum, which then goes through a full AOC review, and then it gets approved by the Defensive Driving Board. Only then are we able to then use that curriculum for the classes. So they're very standardized. They're very highly regulated by the court. And I will add that several years ago, the AOC actually did a study on recidivism and found that people that do take the defensive driving courses, it reduces recidivism by 20%. If you consider that an act on the road, that's an act that could potentially lead to an accident or an injury accident or a fatality. There's a significant benefit to the defensive driving schools. If I could just give defensive driving schools a little positive plug. We do defensive driving because we want to get back to the community, no different than law enforcement goes into law enforcement or somebody goes into public service. We do it because we're passionate about it. A lot of us came from other careers, et cetera, and retired teachers, retired law enforcement officers, et cetera. So, but I did just want to clarify the standards by which the Arizona Supreme Court regulates defensive driving schools.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Barbara Hoffman, followed by Fanny Doran.
I'm short. My name is Barb Hoffman, and I'm the Executive Director of Red Means Stop Traffic Safety Alliance. This is a nonprofit in the Valley that's been working to reduce red light running for many years. It started in 1999 by 3 families that were affected by red light running. And I joined myself when my son Michael was killed by a red light runner in Mesa. And the reason I got fired up was because the man that killed my son only received a red light ticket, nothing for killing my son. And so I thought that was unfair. When I hear about people not liking red light running cameras, I always ask them, wouldn't you rather just have a ticket from running a red light than to be responsible of killing somebody's child? And then they stop arguing with me and accept that their ticket may be a warning for them. And when people want to get rid of red light running cameras, I wonder why. I mean, how many of you have gotten tickets for red light running and don't want to pay them? Is that your reason behind it? Now, you're talking about intersections that may not be the most important intersections in Phoenix, but I look at your Exhibit A, and it's telling how many citations at each one of those intersections. And you're telling me in 2019, 3,171 people got a citation at 12th Street and Camelback. Now you're saying that intersection may not be important. Now these 3,000 some people that ran a red light are very dangerous. Maybe they were lucky that day and didn't kill anybody, but I'm just looking at all these stats. There wasn't like 2 people running a red light in those 12 intersections. There's thousands of people. So I don't know what your problem is about having those particular intersections. Whether they're in a poorer neighborhood or a richer neighborhood, everybody shares the same roads. I drive throughout Phoenix and Scottsdale and Paradise Valley and Gilbert, and so it doesn't matter what intersections are dangerous are the ones that they're located at. And maybe that was the study that was given to them. And ADOT is a little bit lagging sometimes. I'm trying to find stats, and I see that it's 2 years old. So I'm sure that even the city council, the city managers may have gotten stats that were a couple years older, and those intersections may have been the worst ones at the time. And like the mayor even mentioned, maybe these lights are changing those stats and those are improving, and that might be a good idea to reevaluate again. I'm sure every often, but I think shutting them off right now could take somebody else's life. I've met people that have gotten a ticket for running a red light and they changed their bad behavior. And I know that that may be only one method, because there's plenty of things that can be done. I actually did my master's degree, and my thesis project was on changing bad driving behavior. And one of the studies that was done by the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety did mention about extending the yellow light. And it does help, but it usually doesn't help forever. It's a short period of time. People take advantage of that length that you gave them, and they start running the light again. But in Philadelphia, they did a study, and they showed that lengthening it did reduce the red light running by 36%. But they also found that the ones that were covered by red light running cameras were reduced another 96%. So one thing alone is not going to solve the problem. We need many different things. Going to traffic survival school, sometimes that's enough for one person to change their bad driving behavior. Sometimes they have to look at my son and think, oh my gosh, I could kill somebody's kid. I got to quit driving so fast. I got to find a better route if that route is bad for you. So anyway, I just think that it's ridiculous to try to shut them off now without preparing for the future. I agree with, I forgot which your councilman member mentioned, that leave them on now and do a study of what intersections may be worse. Keep them especially for the students. I know I met a lady, her grandson was just killed, and she's pretty upset. She has to go through this holiday season without her family member. And I lived a lot of Christmases without my son, and I don't want to see any other family go through this. Thank you.
Thank you. We are very sorry for your loss, and thank you so much for your testimony. I know this must be very difficult. Fanny will be followed by Lenin Alpista.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Estoy aquí para apoyar las cámaras, para que no las quiten.
I'm here to support the camera so they not be taken away.
Es una muy buena ayuda para nosotros, para toda la comunidad.
It's a great help for us, for all the community.
Las cámaras movibles también en las escuelas están muy bien para nuestros hijos.
The mobile cameras at the schools also, they're good for our kids.
Salvan vidas.
They save lives.
Ayudan mucho a la comunidad y pues
they help the community
es
a
un
lot.
muy buen soporte para nosotros.
It's a very good support for us.
Okay, thank you, muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lenin will be followed by Ceci Hernandez. Is Lenin here? Okay. So Fanny is not here. Okay. Okay, Ms. Hernandez is next, followed by Ed T. Is Ms. Hernandez here? Is Ed here? Thank you. And you were marked in favor. Leonard Clark is our final card on this item.
I was born in the city of Phoenix. Today I came from an intersection, 35th and McDowell. There's a school right there. And if you could see the amount of red light runners just in a 3-minute period getting the camera taken. And I too have received tickets, and I'm glad I was better educated. But I ask you, how do you ask a parent to be the last parent whose child is going to die for a mistake of not having a red light camera? This is not about, and you could call me a tree-hugging progressive, but this has nothing to do with progressive, conservative. This has nothing to do with the government spying on you, because if you want to do something about that, you could. This is about bloody crashes, dead children. What is it, 132 fatalities over the last 10 years, roughly, in the city of Phoenix. This is about people who maybe are angry that they're getting, having to pay fines. Just as the last man demonstrated, this is not about color. This is not about low income, and I guarantee you I'm low income, and I'm not being paid by anybody. I'm here because as a citizen former citizen of Phoenix, but I'll be back. We can't have one more child die. In fact, if you really want to go by that paradigm, why do the low income and the people of color have more cameras than the Anglo people who are white? Actually, I think the people in the Anglo neighborhoods, the wealthier neighborhoods, should be asking, why don't we have more red light cameras by our schools to save our children's lives? You can't turn it into that. That's wrong. This is about, right now as I'm speaking, if you take away these red light cameras, you have no transition. Somebody is going to have a loved one die. We need more education, I grant you that. We need to educate our citizens. But please, please don't turn it into that. Save the lives of Phoenix citizens. Don't take away red light cameras. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one card in favor of the item not wishing to speak. That concludes our public comment cards. Any council member comments? Councilwoman Pastor.
I have a question regarding red lights and getting a ticket from the red lights. Can you explain the process to me? Because as I was sitting here, I was looking up what happens if there's a violation. And then my second question is, in the process of the violation, is it state law, or is it, how are determining that you go to court, you say, that is me, and now once you had admitted that that's guilt, and then it requires you to go to school, where, is it state law that requires us to go to school, or is it the city policy? Where's the policy coming from?
And if you could each introduce yourself, that would be wonderful.
Madam Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, Don Taylor, Chief Presiding Judge of the Phoenix Municipal Court. And I came over because I noticed there was some confusion about that particular issue. Ultimately, I think it was clarified. So state law in Arizona is that anyone who is found responsible for a red light violation, either because they decide to go ahead and plead responsible and they decide to go ahead and pay the fine, or because they have a hearing on the issue and are found responsible at the hearing, in addition to the fine that is imposed, has an additional requirement that's imposed by the Motor Vehicle Division that they need to go to what's called traffic survival school, and that is the 8-hour class. So that is something that happens for everyone who's found responsible on a red light. Now, the confusion comes in sometimes because red light violations are also eligible for defensive driving program dismissal. And someone can go to the defensive driving program once a year, And so that's something that they can do if they get the ticket, they can go, and they're eligible, they can go to defensive driving, they pay for defensive driving, and then the ticket itself is dismissed. So since there is in fact no violation that goes on the record, there's no finding of responsibility, MVD then does not send the requirement that that individual go to traffic survival school.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is if I get a ticket, a violation, I have the choice to either pay the fine or go to defensive driving school. If I go to defensive driving school, that will then kick out the ticket, and I then no longer have the ticket, and I no longer get points on insurance, correct?
Councilwoman Pastor, that is correct.
If I choose not to go to defensive driving school and I go in front of the judge will then say, is this you in this picture? Or for me, it was a picture. And I'll say yes. And then what happens is you pay the ticket fee, you pay the fine, and then I go to motor vehicle school, or is it defensive driving school? I don't know if it's the same term.
Councilwoman Pastor, it is a different term. It's traffic survival school. And you are absolutely correct. If there is a finding of responsibility on that ticket following a hearing, or if you do it earlier in the process by simply paying the ticket, there is a fine that's imposed by the city court. And then when we notify MVD of that action, that's when MVD then sends the letter directly to the person saying it's an MVD requirement now for you to attend traffic survival school. And as you mentioned earlier, if you don't, then motor vehicle will suspend the license.
Correct. And the license is suspended, and your insurance is notified, and then becomes a whole domino effect. Okay. I just wanted to be clear on what happens in the process and why the process, where the process gets triggered and where it begins in the steps, that we really don't, how I'm reading it is we don't have control of that piece, because MVD, then it triggers it in the system, and MVD gets notified, and MVD kind of then goes and moves the way it moves. If we pay the fine, or if we go to defensive driving school, then that whole process is eliminated, because we go to traffic school.
Yes, Councilwoman Pastor, if someone is eligible and they attend defensive driving successfully, then the ticket itself is dismissed and there are no further consequences.
Okay, so that's where I'm hearing where you pay twice, where you have to pay the ticket and then you're mandated to go to school, and that's where you pay twice.
Councilwoman Pastor, as I understand it, that's correct. From what I think you're saying, yes. If you're found responsible, there's a fine that goes with it. Additionally, MVD says, by the way, because of that finding of responsibility, you now get to go to, or you have to go to traffic survival school.
Which there's a cost.
Yes.
So then okay, now I understand.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I just want to make it very clear. I don't think that we're against the cameras. We're all about saving lives. It's just the process. I mean, we're going through a procurement process, and it's given to us at the 11th hour, and they're asking for an extension. So we're not able to ask these types of questions because it's thrown to us as the council members, and it makes us look like bad people because we're asking these questions. We're asking questions like, why is some yellow lights at 3.6 seconds and others are at 5 seconds? Why are there differences there? And what are the, what happens there? So if your light's a little shorter, of course, you're going to get more red light runners, right? So things like that, I want to understand why some areas are shorter than others, right? And the other thing is why the cameras are put in the positions that they're put in. Why, if we understand that there's certain areas in our city that there's more accidents and there's fatal accidents happening, why aren't the cameras there? Those are the kind of questions that we're trying to get from our staff members to understand it. And we don't want it to be thrown to us at the 11th hour where we're going to have to extend it for another 6 months and then another 6 months. No. We're trying to be good stewards here, and we're trying to make sure that we're getting the bang for our bucks here and that we're saving lives. And it's all about safety. And I'm for more cameras as long as all those questions are answered and there's a rhyme and reason behind it. So I'm going to be supporting the putting the vans in front of the schools and then having a work session to really iron out all these questions that we have.
Thank you, Councilman. For our streets director, how do we determine signal timing or the timing of yellow lights?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Nowakowski. The timing of our yellow lights, or what we call yellow clearance times, are based on our city traffic handbook, which is also based on a calculation through the Institute of Transportation Engineers Traffic Operations Handbook, and it's based on the speed limit of the street. So if it's 3.6 seconds or 4 seconds, it's based on the speed limit of the street when you're approaching that intersection. So it's not randomly 3 seconds or 5 seconds, it's based on the speed limit. And so we've done that throughout our city in our 1,150 traffic signals.
Wonderful, thank you. Are we ready to vote? Any council member? Councilwoman Stark.
I guess I'm trying to understand the vote. I think we have a substitute motion. And we had a second, right? Right. Okay, thank you.
Councilman DeCiccio, I believe.
And I'll support the substitute motion. I just wish we had the 12 cameras still on somewhere in our city to help prevent red light running. I'm not sure why we can't keep them. Maybe I don't understand the cost. But I do want to protect our schools, and I want to protect the students that go to those schools and the parents that have those children. But I still can't wrap my arm around why we can't just keep the 12 lights in operation as we have our study session and we start to ask these questions. Why can't we just keep them? Because at least they are providing a service. So I'm just in a dilemma, but again, I'll be supportive of the substitute motion, and I'll be at 7th Street and Bell January 1st when you're taking the camera down protesting it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for your leadership on these issues. I certainly, I prefer the Councilwoman Stark's motion, but understand the importance of school cameras. Councilwoman Pastor.
Leonard Clark brought up a good section, only because I represent that area, and 35th Avenue in McDowell. It's one of the most dangerous streets in our cities. There was a bridge built, and it was intentionally built because we didn't want to see any more fatalities, specifically Isaac Middle School, young kids crossing that street. So the bridge was built. There's still fatalities. They're still running of red lights, and it's just unfortunate. The other piece is we just recently, I want to say 3 weeks ago, so fresh in my mind, 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, we watched a video, I watched a video on the news of, I want to say 43rd Avenue, McDowell, 53rd Avenue, McDowell, Indian School, and where a couple was walking with their infant across the street, and you saw somebody running a red light, hitting a car, and by sheer serendipity, somebody was watching them. And somebody watched them and moved them or had them stand still, and their lives were saved. We would not have seen that if there hadn't been a red light camera. And so for me, that demonstrates a safety issue. And it is in the area of a minority area. So is 35th Avenue, McDowell. I feel like minority neighborhoods should be saved. And we should look at across the whole city how we provide equity and fairness. So I believe in red light cameras. I do believe they're safe. I do believe that the streets, it provides, especially me now, when I see that, see that yellow light coming, and I see that a crosswalk blinking 4, 3, 2, 1, at 4, I better start slowing down and not gun it and try to and move quickly. I've learned it from personal experience and understand it. So, and I also paid for it. So I understand the issue with some of my colleagues, but I don't believe that we have to give up safety in order to look at safety. And so for me, it's about safety, and we can continue this conversation in a study session and continue to keep our city safe. Those are my comments.
Councilwoman Williams.
Does this terminate January 1st?
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Williams, yes, this contract actually ends December 31st of 2019.
And do we just move the cameras or shut them off, or do we have to pay to have them taken out?
No, the contract would just end.
Okay. And has the RFP for the new service gone out?
Yeah, so currently we have an RFP on the street, and the responses are due January 3rd of 2020. Just want to stress we still have time to amend that RFP.
Okay, good, because I'm hoping we have a workshop early January, because if we need to amend it, then we can make that happen. Thank you.
Mayor?
Just there, to keep only the vans, there is, because we're changing the contract, there would be a financial impact to the city?
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct. If you kept the program intact, cameras and vans, there is no impairment, as the revenue that comes in it supports the program totally. The city does not make any money. That's also one clarification that I would like to make. This is not something where the city makes money on. And I'm probably at the table. My history with photo red light probably goes back longer than most. As an MA2, I've had police and fire, and I go back to the inception of the photo red light program. And at that time, the council put that program in place specifically. They wanted to differentiate themselves from the surrounding cities where they were making money. Our program was initially designed to actually lose money because the impetus and the focus was on safety.
Thank you. Councilman DeCiccio.
Just a question to the maker of the motion. I want to make sure this is for school vans when kids are in session, correct? Okay, good. That's what I second. The other is, when we look at this in the work study, there really needs to be a strong look and a test of extending the yellow light cameras. So what you're hearing up here, too, to those of you in the audience, is this last-minute thing. It's the way this thing was posted. This is my comments on this, is that it was meant to embarrass those of us on the council that want to do this right and do it the right way and get it done correctly and to be able to test other things. Think about it. This was a years-long contract. Came to us, what is today, December 18? We're voting on this thing. Think about that. So that's what this was done. It was done literally to embarrass us, to push us into doing something, and it looks corrupt as far as I'm concerned. It looks bad, and it looks horrible, quite frankly. And staff couldn't answer why the cameras were there originally, what was going on. We ask a lot of questions. We expect answers on those things. So I expect staff, the city, the police department, and others to take a look at everything that's on the table and just don't say this is the only way we want to do that and inflict a pain on the public that's completely unnecessary, and it could be a lot safer. Could be a lot safer. There are other models that are out there, like Dayton and Chicago and others, that have used. So I'm going to be voting yes on the ones for the schools, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
I'm disappointed with Councilman DeCiccio's comments on this. We can have a legitimate disagreement. People can disagree about whether or not we should have red light cameras, but I don't think it's fair to attack our staff. This has gone through a very public process. It went to subcommittee months and months ago, and we've been having this dialogue. So I respect your ability to disagree about whether red light cameras will save lives and whether that's a worthy investment, but it is not fair to attack our staff. Councilwoman Pastor.
I just have a question at how this was, I guess I have a question to Councilman DeCiccio on how this was brought here to embarrass us. We voted on it. We then said, we'll throw it back to subcommittee. Then what happens in subcommittee, whatever happens to subcommittee, it was going to come to us. So I'm not really sure how people are embarrassed.
I'll be happy to answer that. City Council already voted no on this thing. Then it goes to subcommittee. Subcommittee comes back and says, for school vans only, because we want to make sure that the kids are safe over there. The way this thing was posted, and third, the way this whole finagling occurred up here on the council. You know, usually the vice mayor makes the motion on these things, and the way it was all set up, it was set up for failure. And that is my, you know, we can disagree on things, okay? We can do that. But when things start happening behind closed doors and in secrecy, it creates problems. We could always be upfront on these things and say that. So the bottom line is the way this thing was set up is problematic at best. And the fact that staff can't answer questions about why they were put in, that should be simple. People know why things are put into places like that. Okay, so I apologize for using them, especially because of the staff here. None of you had anything to do with that. It's not their fault, okay? I apologize for that. I was wrong. It was a level of frustration that has been occurring. The city manager knows. I talked to him last week about it too. So I don't like the way things get done here, and this was one of those situations where I was not happy with it. We can disagree, as long as it's all on the table. And that's all I was asking for. And I'm sorry I did that, Mayor, and it's good for you to call me out. I appreciate that, quite frankly. It's right before Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. We should be happier about it. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And I do want to point out that on several items today, for example, zoning cases in District 2 and 7, I turned to the council member of that district. We have an acknowledged leader on aviation, Councilwoman Williams, who made our aviation motion. Councilwoman Stark has been a very passionate advocate for pedestrian safety. This is a very important issue to her.
And I'm sorry that I came out with the motion, Councilwoman DeCiccio. It's just, I'm so tired of getting texts from our police officers telling us about pedestrian fatalities, traffic fatalities. I'm just tired. So, but I appreciate that you want to do it correctly. I get that. But I do think we need to have these red light cameras. I do think they help deter problems on our streets. They can save lives. And ma'am, I'm having a hard time. I know it was your son. I know. I would never want to lose my son. But I apologize that I came out making that motion, but that's how much I feel about it. So I am sorry. I stand by my motion, but I will accept the substitute. It's hard for me to understand when people have lost loved ones.
Councilwoman Pastor. No? Ready for
did.
roll call? Councilor Nowakowski.
So when's the sunset for this contract that we have right now?
So Mayor, City Council, again, the contract expires on December 31st of 2019.
And the RFP, when would that go into effect, the RFP that we have on the street right now?
So right now, the RFP that's on the street, we're expecting responses to that RFP on January 3rd.
And is it the norm of the city to actually do an RFP before a sunset, or wait until the sunset happens and then 3 months later we actually implement an RFP for that sunset period?
So again, the RFP was placed on the street per the subcommittee direction on April 10th of 2019, if I understand your question correctly.
Right. So basically, normally we would have the RFP, the person granted the RFP, in place January 1st, but for this reason, for this case, we don't have that. And that's the reason why this chaos is happening, and that's why we're actually looking into it in a deeper way, and that's why it brought red flags for myself, and that's where I started asking all these questions. Just for clarification, it's not an attack on staff, it was just something that was brought up, and it made me look into it even more so. Thank you.
Are we ready for roll call? Roll call.
DeCiccio?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Nowakowski?
Yes.
Pastor?
Yes.
Stark? Waring? Williams?
Because half is better than nothing, yes.
Guardado?
Yes.
Gallego?
Yes. The item passes 8-1. That concludes the agendized portion of our meeting. We will now move to citizens' comments. We will begin with Catherine Roxlow. And Catherine will be followed by Wayne Daudet.
Thank you, council members and mayor. My name's Catherine Roxlow. I live in the city of Phoenix. I have 2 petitions that I'd like to give to the council. And I tried to make copies for everybody and for the clerk. Thank you very much for hearing us today. So these 2 petitions relate to a 48-inch main water pipeline and a 66-inch main water pipeline that's scheduled to go through 2 or 3 neighborhoods and the preserve starting in January 2020. And we're asking that you stop all work on this. Petition 1, this is also called the drought pipeline. Petition 1 talks primarily about, we're requesting that you conduct a comprehensive water supply study related to specifically North Phoenix, but all of Phoenix, but specifically North Phoenix. We, in our studies, we do not believe this is an emergency. There's plenty of water for North Phoenix. Phoenix has done an incredible job of storing water and preparing for our future, and even if cap water stopped, which it won't, North Phoenix is positioned to have served. The pipeline is not needed. It's not an emergency. It's not even needed. There are better, cheaper ways to deliver water to North Phoenix. This is a $300 million project, and that money could be much better spent. So it's a waste of taxpayer money and water bill money. Petition 2 outlines issues that we have found with the alignment study and with the way the pipeline is being put in. The alignment study was basically a desktop study. It did not go into sufficient detail for a 48-inch water main and a 66-inch water main pipeline. It didn't include community input. It didn't include community safety. It goes on residential streets that are 38 feet wide, and you're looking to put in a 66-inch and a 48-inch pipeline into these streets. It doesn't go into building safety nearby, which would always be done typically on a job this size. It doesn't go into environmental protection sufficiently. The costs are underestimated. They haven't estimated correctly for blasting or for going through hard rock. And they're talking about our neighborhood. The houses are high because it's hard rock there. The alignment doesn't follow city engineering design standards. I'm sorry, but I want to talk for just a few more seconds. For a 66-inch or a 48-inch pipeline, you need 80 feet of easement, and we only have 38-foot wide streets. It's unconscionable to try and put in pipelines this size in a 2-lane street. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I just want to repeat my comments from earlier in today. We had a good meeting, or a good conversation with the director of the Arizona Department of Transportation about putting a pipeline in freeway in the 51 right-of-way. So just wanted to repeat that comment. I know you have been here and heard it, but I thought it might be relevant. Wayne will be followed by Jeannie Swindle.
Yes, my name is Wayne.A. I live at 7535 North 21st Place in Phoenix. And your pipeline is coming up from Lincoln past Madison Meadows School and continuing on to the reserve, where you'll bore a hole through the reserve and pull all of that material back out of the reserve and haul it back down 22nd Street where I live. I'm 80 years old. I've been there for 40 years. I built that house. one thing that I've learned coming here this evening, I've never been to one of these meetings before, and you can tell maybe that I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm also a little bit mad, and the mad's taken over the nervousness. But anyways, the one thing that I've learned is everybody says it's the right thing to do. Everybody up there has made a comment, because I've been here all day, it's the right thing to do. Nobody sitting there has ever been on 22nd Street that thinks that they can run a 66-inch pipe north of Lincoln past Madison Meadows grade school, 5-year-old children. My great-grandson attends Madison Meadows. He'll be 6 feet as close as I am there. 6 feet from the street, 22nd Street, where thousands of tons of material will go back and forth. Now, I'm not wearing an orange shirt like my neighbors, and the reason I'm not is when I joined this organization, they said, well, we'll print flyers, we'll talk to the city, we'll get this stopped, I'm sure. We'll circulate flyers, we'll put signs in our front yard. I'm sure that'll help. It won't. There ain't no chance in the world. I will not wear an orange shirt, but I will talk to the mayor. I'll talk to, Sale knows that it's not the right thing to do. If you people run a 66-inch pipe up a 36-foot wide street with an excavator digging the thing and putting the material into a dump truck, a semi-end dump truck, I cannot imagine the gridlock that's going to be there, because if you ever go there in the morning when those children are coming to school, there's a little circular drive and there's 100 SUVs trying to drop the children off to go to school, 1st through 4th grade, little children. I guess I'm done, but I absolutely, positively cannot believe that it's the right thing to do.
Oh, Mayor, just to comment to staff on this, the idea that I had that went up 51st, the 51, is moving along correctly, correct? It's moving along. It looks like the state of Arizona's working with us. We just haven't got a complete yes or no on that. But just so that the public is aware, we're pushing really hard on an alternative. I know I can't legally respond to them directly, but we are pushing really hard. I appreciate staff moving forward on the idea and doing everything that they can, meeting with the director, doing everything right. And they are trying to do the right thing on this one here now, especially along the 51, that I do know. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Jeannie will be followed by Christina Eckelkraut.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mayor and Councilman DeCiccio, for all efforts that you have made and have started to talk. We greatly appreciate it. I'm proud to wear an orange shirt, and I think that, quite honestly, part of the attention would not be to you, would have not been received by you had we not had the orange shirts and the verbs. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry for the emails and the telephone calls that have come to all of you. But what we are asking is, in essence, that you stop until the plan has been identified, the alignment is appropriate. We do not, as you have heard and read, we do not think that we think that it's ill-conceived and that there are better ways, and I know that you're pursuing that, and we have some ideas we want to have input into that. There are 2 pipes that we're talking about, a 48-inch and a 66-inch pipe. And all the details that you've heard in terms of arterial streets that are larger are where these should be by the standards manual, by engineering design. Granada Park, the area down there is, 300 homes, right? And Granada Park itself is going to be surrounded, if you will. Come across Lincoln, dig under Lincoln, holy moly, I can't wait to see what kind of traffic issues that is. Once you come up into the, Madison Heights and the Biltmore Highlands area. I live on 22nd Street, so I'm up 3 houses down from the trailhead. But once you come into that area, now you have a school, So now you've impacted a church, a Greek Orthodox church on the south side, now Madison Heights Elementary School, a police station, and you now, when you get onto 22nd Street, remember this is going up and back, up and down with trucks, so it's not when it gets past my driveway, it will be all right. No, it isn't that. It's going to be a continuous movement, if you will, vibrations on homes. You've got property values, you've got safety issues, you've got health issues. Many of these factors have not been considered and were not included in the study that was presented and decisions were made upon. We think it needs to be stopped and planned more appropriately before we go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina will be followed by Casey Golub.
Hello, Mayor, Council. My name is Christina Eichelkraut, and I'm submitting a petition for consideration by the Council. Mayor Gallego, council members, and city management, today I'm submitting a petition that makes a request that has already been made numerous times by constituents as well as members of this council to increase the practical accessibility of city council meetings by adjusting the meeting time to one that starts after standard working hours. As an active civic participant, I do understand and acknowledge that there are practical concerns attendant to this request. However, I want to emphasize that this petition is not a simple yes or no request, but what I hope will be a starting point for serious consideration of this. I'm not going to read the petition to you during this time, as I expect the council to do their due diligence and read it. It has been submitted to you electronically twice. There is also an online petition that does have other signatures from constituents. I realize I'm not legally required to have those additional signatures, but I thought it was important that the council knows that this is an issue that is important to residents of this city. Also, I wanted to say that as one of the largest, fastest growing cities in the United States that spans a sprawling geographic area of 500 square miles, the city of Phoenix cannot in good conscience hold meetings at a time that effectively excludes a vast majority of its working public. It is possible to strike a reasonable balance between efficiently running a municipality while also allowing city residents every opportunity to dynamically engage with their elected officials. In fact, I would wager to say that that's the responsibility of this council. The petition I am respectfully submitting includes several suggestions that I believe, at the very least, again, are a starting point for discussion. I have every confidence that with some effort and a compromise with our municipal government can be more robust, we can have a more robust civic participation that's fostered by better meeting times. I do realize that there are issues with staffing, and this could potentially put an increased burden on some of the city staff, but quite frankly, my argument to that is that if you want banker's hours, you should go work for a bank. There is a sacrifice attendant to being in public service, library districts, school districts, plenty of non-civic organizations that are non-governmental, all meet in the evening. That is not coincidence. That has to do with practical accessibility. I also want to acknowledge that the staff is in technical compliance of open meeting law, but technical compliance does not actually mean practical accessibility. So with that, I respectfully submit this petition, and I do hope that it at least begins a fruitful conversation on city council start times. Thank you.
Thank you. Casey will be followed by Elizabeth Venable. And just to confirm, Casey is no longer here? Casey's gone? Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, so I assume you've heard the big news. Since the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in September 2018 on the case Martin v. Boise, the leaders of the city and Phoenix have been intractable in their support for criminalizing of camping and sleeping in public areas. You have given no explanation as to your behavior. I think you are waiting on the Supreme Court to strike down Martin v. Boise so that you can continue arresting people for being poor. However, the Supreme Court did not rule in your favor. The Supreme Court has now said that the Ninth Circuit ruling stands. Phoenix has no more excuses. You must stop criminalizing sleeping and camping. The paucity of resources devoted to the homeless in this state and city is disturbing. More disturbing is the idea that in the absence of meaningful programs, which you can't even access unless you're SMI, for many of, like Phoenix Cares, which humanely house the homeless, you feel entitled to make it a crime to live. The City of Phoenix must choose to follow the Supreme Court. I expect no less and will hold you accountable. What is your choice? I respectfully anticipate the answer that is reviewed by your council, and if it is insufficient, we will take further action. And I have a petition.
Mayor, may I ask staff a question on this? So the Supreme Court was pretty clear in their ruling upholding the Ninth Circuit.
Councilman, we have to stick to the open meeting law.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm asking staff this question here because I think we're going to need to have a meeting on this. Whether it's an executive session or a policy meeting, we really ought to have a discussion on this point. And I'm glad she brought it up, quite frankly, because it's going to have a big impact on primarily the inner city. So just letting you know, we should have a...
I've already spoken to the city attorney about scheduling this for a next session.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alicia is next, followed by Jeff Reed.
Hello. Yeah, I have it, thank you. Okay. Hello, Mayor and Council. I've been here before. And I'm back before you again. And I'm here this time to ask a question that needs to be answered. About my property that was supposedly be submitted for evidence, but I wasn't told that until way after the property was taken. I was here before. I was one of the ones that property was taken by the Phoenix police and dumped into a big trash can or wherever it went. And so I'm here now wondering where it's at again, because I was told it went into evidence. Evidence for what? I wasn't locked up. There was no reason for it to go into evidence and seized by the Phoenix Police Department. Then there's no trespassing signs. I was at the bus stop, sitting there waiting. Officer pulls up and says to me, are you waiting for the bus? Well, I had my cart that I push when I'm not on this cane. And he asked me, did I have a bus pass? And I said, no, I'm just sitting here waiting. And I'm going to walk further on. And he said, well, when I come back in 1 hour, I'm going to trespass you. So this is getting to be annoying, and they're doing it like all the time. This is wherever. So we have people complaining with Elizabeth, the meetings we have, and they're complaining about it. They're saying that they're being ticketed for it, just being sitting somewhere where no trespassing sign is, but the no trespassing sign means you can't cross over the gate, not the sidewalk. So, okay, and last but least, I just want to know where my belongings are, and I would like to have them back because they're constantly on my mind. There were sentimental values in there that I need from, people that passed on, and I just want to have them back. I recently started my own to get my birth certificate because when I was here before, he told me to go to CBI. CBI was here, but CBI is medical. I want my belongings, and I'm not SMI. Most of the people here in Phoenix, Arizona, that I've talked to is SMI, but I don't have that problem. So I don't need to see CBI. I just want to know where my belongings are, and could I have them back? And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And the city manager has asked staff to follow up with you. So hopefully we can get a good resolution. Jeff Reed. And Jeff will be followed by John Mazur.
Mayor and council members, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm Jeff Reed. I live at the top of North 22nd Street, about a half block away from the North 22nd Street trailhead at the point where the proposed pipeline would penetrate and violate the preserve. I'm opposed to the water pipeline, as you can tell by my T-shirt, and we know well the issues before you. But I just want to make several points. The first is that I'm not against drought mitigation. I'm really just opposed to the route that's proposed for the proposed pipeline. There are many, many reasons why the proposed route should be rerouted, which I'd like to summarize, because I think we've all heard many arguments and compelling arguments about why it should be moved or should be considered to be moved. but no one's really summarized them yet. So I'd just like to summarize those reasons. So number one would be there's a major disruption to the neighborhoods adjoining Lincoln Drive and 21st and 22nd Streets. Number two, lack of ingress and egress into the neighborhood, which depend the neighborhood north of Lincoln Drive, which relies almost entirely on the North 22nd Avenue Street. Three, lack of access for emergency vehicles if 22nd Street is under construction for the proposed 2 to 3 year period that the Water Department has proposed. And number four, the proximity to the Madison Heights Elementary School, which Wayne has, I think, pretty well explained his opposition to that. Number five, potential damage to infrastructure of aging houses in the neighborhood, both the foundations as well as the sewer and utility hookups to them. Number six, dust and air quality. There's a increased potential for things such as valley fever, which I actually experienced over the years living there in Phoenix. So that's something that comes up into the air and that is sort of an underestimated disease or condition that people can incur, as well as the fact that Dreamy Draw was a site of a mercury mine in the days of when Dreamy Draw was mined, and so there's potential for mercury poisoning in that area. Number seven, the difficulty of excavating the pipe. We talked about that earlier. Catherine did. The width of the residential street, the existing geology, hard rock. People have had difficulty having pools excavated and had to resort to using dynamite in the past in that area. The winding streets that come up from Guardado Park. There's several streets that don't run in a straight line. So it's not just running a pipe straight up a street. There's going to be additional need to excavate. Number eight, the incursion into the Phoenix Mountain Preserve that was created as a protected public space under earlier city council commitments. I'll just finish my last two. The lack of transparency, we were advised that this was going to happen. We had very short response time to even activate and respond to the fact that this huge project was going to go through. And then finally, number 10, the alternate route up Route 51 was initially rejected by the Water Department based on what I think could be viewed as flimsy reasoning because they didn't want to contend with ADOT or the Army Corps of Engineers. They just sort of chose the proposed route as it stood because they felt that ADOT would be too difficult to deal with. Thank you. However, in the meantime, we've learned that you have been in discussion with them. So I applaud and appreciate your efforts on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John will be followed by Sandra Kane.
Good evening, Council. My name is John Mazer, and my wife and I are proud new members of the Piestoa Peak area for the last 2 years. We love Phoenix. We love Piestoa Peak. We love the Phoenix Mountain Preserve. And we're happy, or not happy, but firm to fight this decision. When we were told about this, which was at Madison Elementary on a late October midday week, we were told that sort of like in an oh by the way kind of stuff, it's shoved down your throat way. It's this way or no way, even though there were apparently 2 other options. And all of us, or many of us, suggested ADOT, and your staff scoffed at us like, that's crazy, that will never happen. Thank you for telling us today that that may happen. That's kind of nice to hear. It was how the majority of us thought on that late October evening. I was at the council meeting 2 weeks ago, on December 4th, and the last public speaker spoke about a 1991 agreement between the city and the Phoenix Mountain Preserve that would prevent any transportation or utility construction happening. So my question is, why was our community of 500 plus homes in Piestoa Peak told that this is happening in January with 9 weeks notice? It seems like it's illegal. I mean, if what this person was saying is true, He referenced Councilwoman Williams and the T-shirt that he bought from you or you sold to him, 28 years ago. So I had no reason to believe that what was being said was not true. So I'm very confused why the city is doing something that is against this 1991 agreement that also is potentially really harming the Phoenix Mountain Preserve, something that I've learned as a new 2-year Phoenix resident we are very proud of. And I've also learned that many cities across America are envious of a city like Phoenix that has such an amazing natural jewel and treasure in their neighborhood. So we are very, very proud of that. And we think that 1991 agreement, if in fact it is truthful, it's a done deal. There should be no construction there for 3 years that affects our life and the preserve. The city told us on that late October meeting at Madison Elementary that there were 2 other options, even though they wouldn't tell us what they are. Please check those out. And please, congratulations, because the obvious thing is 51 and to try to do it as best as possible there. Thank you so much for your time.
Or can I make a comment to him?
Councilwoman Williams.
In 91, I think, is when the city of Phoenix built 51. And that could have been something from back then. I don't know if that's currently true or not. I mean, I can't confirm that. But there was nobody living up there at that time. I mean, population was very sparse. And
just to confirm, this will be on the January Livability and Land Use Subcommittee agenda so that we can have an agendized conversation. So we have Sandra Kane will be our last speaker. Thomas Stillwell, Sean Severud, and Leonard Clark had filled out cards and weren't able to speak, so I will note that for next time and try to move them forward. Sandra.
Okay, Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Sandra Kane, and I live in the Madison Heights area. I've lived there for 35 years. I sent an email to all of the mayor and to the members of the City Council in December, December 3rd, right before the December 4th meeting, laying out my concerns and requesting at the end of it that please put this matter on the agenda and halt the imminent construction to allow community input, consider feasible alternatives, and achieve the best outcome for Phoenix. I have now converted this into a petition because we are all concerned about the imminence of January coming up and construction started. I personally live in a house that is in the middle of 22nd Street and 20th Street, where the 2 pipelines are to come in. The only way we can get in and out of our home is going through 22nd Street. And right now, today, in fact, there are utility workers on 22nd Street, and traffic has to be stopped. There's only one lane that they're letting people in. There are people holding signs, and you have to wait for one side to go before you can go. There's just no room to put a 66-inch pipeline down 22nd Street, which, as other speakers have told you, is a vital method of egress into our landlocked little community, which is bounded by the 51, by the Phoenix Mountain Preserve, and Lincoln. The only way I can get into that neighborhood is 22nd Street to get to my home. And there's huge traffic on Lincoln in rush hour times. And it just needs to be something looked at. When I came to the meeting last time on the 4th, I heard Vice Mayor Guardado state, community input is incredibly important. Do everything we can to have community input so everyone feels good about the decisions we make. And that's what we're asking. I was at the meeting on October 24th at Madison Heights Elementary School, where we were told by the Water Services Department that this is a fait accompli, essentially, and that nothing we could do would make any difference. And nobody wanted to even listen to any questions we had. They would not take questions from the approximately 300 people that were sitting in the audience there, and were just learning about this for the first time. And they waited, they said, you have to wait to the end of the meeting and go in the back, and we'll have a few people that can answer questions, but nobody could interrupt. I know this isn't the way that we're supposed to run city government. I know that's when I saw Mayor Gallego running for office. You were very polite, listening to people in different communities and working with people. And what Councilwoman Guardado said, we're asking for the same thing, and we're hoping, because I want to put this into a petition, that we hear back before the January construction starts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. We are adjourned.
Mayor, oh, sorry.
Could I say one thing? We would really like to hear that this job is postponed until community input is allowed, and that's really something that it's supposed to start in January. It'd be wonderful to hear an official message from the council, from the city, that both of these pipelines will not be started until further evaluation.
So, Ed, I have a question to you. My question to you is, January 1st, is construction starting?
We've heard that construction is starting in January 2020. That's what we've been told, and we're very concerned about that. No date, and we've asked repeatedly to have it paused.
Okay, I'm asking the question to
Okay, I'm sorry.
the city manager. The meeting's been adjourned, but I'm still talking, so go ahead. Everybody's leaving.
The construction does not start on January 1st.
It is not starting, so
On January
you just heard it
1st.
from the city manager, and then from there we can move. Thank you.